All right. All right. What I want to do tonight is I want to go, we've talked about traditional inking. I want to go over a little bit of digital inking in Photoshop and Illustrator. Okay. And I'm not expecting, I have a couple of videos I already did. So everything I'm talking about tonight, you're going to, you don't have to like write notes or anything. Okay. And also I don't expect you to remember every single thing. I'm giving you a little bit of an overview, but I don't think you can talk about this kind of line quality thing and digital inking and all that kind of stuff unless you're also talking digital, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I also think you have to talk about Photoshop. Photoshop's a little more straightforward, and then I'll show you a little bit in Illustrator just to show you what it can do. I tend to use Illustrator for inking because it just takes all the guesswork out of it, and I can ultra control the line, right? And I'm going to show you about maybe 3 tools in Illustrator and that are very simple. And then if any of you want to do your piece in Illustrator and you need to Zoom with me and we need to go over it, or maybe if 3 or 4 of you go, hey, we're going to do this, we'll do a little mini, I can do a little mini tutorial and kind of help you guys through it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't expect you, if you've never been in it before, to know obviously how to use it, but I also don't think it's not a huge learning curve. Okay. And a little bit on this, like I want to show you guys a couple of things. I talked about this last night in my illustration class. Hang on, I got to find I had it right here. Oh, here it is. This, and I'll give you a better look at it here in a second. I just refound it. I thought I lost it. This was a big supplement in the New York Times Sunday paper, okay? And it's just a thing where it says, cats rule, dogs drool. And then it says down here, if you like dogs, flip the thing, right? So look, this is what's interesting. And by the way, this is Travis Louis. I think this falls into cartooning and illustration. This is Travis Louis, who's a really interesting illustrator. So look, hang on. Let me share my screen. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
How do you work like this? It's so messy.
Like what?
Like, look at your desktop.
Oh, because
Looks like
I'm creating so
Trevor's
much
lost
content,
desert.
I can't file it till the end of the term, but I take a lot of it off so it doesn't eat up my whole desktop. Does that make sense?
I
I
just
would
don't know how
still
you
like
look
put
for things.
folders on the left and like images on the right. That's what I would do.
It works for me. Okay, so look. So that's the front. And that's Travis Louis. And almost everything in it's illustration. Okay, this is a big supplement, okay? Supplemental thing. Okay, one photo. I think everything else is illustration. Okay, and then this page, it goes who wins, dogs. You can see the dogs word there, and then you flip it, and it's cats, right? Then if you close the whole thing and flip it around, it's the same thing, only from a dog perspective, and another Travis Louis illustration. So you got 2 illustrations that time. And then it makes an argument for dogs. So it makes an argument for cats and it makes an argument for dogs. I like those.
It's pretty funny.
I just think it's so cool they did it. You know what I mean?
It's like if you was taking the InDesign class to do newspaper.
Well, that's how they lay it out. But anyway, that's cool, right? And then the other thing
Mhm.
was,
Very cool.
the other thing was this, which is not something people think about, but I think these are well done. So over at McDonald's right now, they're doing these. And the reason I want to talk about this is because it's actually not that hard to do. They're doing these activity things for kids, right? And they're really well done. They're all vector, which I'm going to show you a little bit today. But they're really well done vector, right? And then you turn it this way. And it has a game on the back. And this is all kiss cut. So all this stuff can pop out. And you put it all together. You make like a little spinner. And it's got a little game and stuff. It's cool. And then they did this one that's more elaborate. So all these are kiss cut pieces. Really well done in Illustrator. Here's the other side, black and white, right? And then if you look here, where is it? Right here. If you kiss cut all these out, so all these pop out, you can make that. Does that make sense?
Crazy.
And why
Yeah.
the reason I show you guys this is not just because it's good work. It's because I can tell you what happened here. Probably 2 people maybe, and I'd have to look into it. Went to McDonald's, probably went to a lot of different people and said, hey, we can do this for you. Because this is really inexpensive to do, obviously. We can do this for you for this much or whatever, and here's our themes, and here's how to look, and sold them on it. Okay, that's if they're doing that nationwide with McDonald's, that's a gigantic account. Okay, does that make sense? I mean, they're doing 100,000 print run of them. Does that make sense? Yes.
Yeah.
And then they're also doing these at the same time, which have a little theme. They do vector. They pop some kids' faces in it. I like it better if they just did it all vector, personally. Right? But it's really well done. Okay. How many people in here have used Illustrator? Oh, yeah, that's right. We've talked about it. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this partly is, like I said, you can't really talk about inking without talking about Illustrator, but also a lot of people don't know what it can do. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of it, and we'll talk a little bit about Illustrator too, or Photoshop too. Photoshop's very simple and pretty straightforward. Also, I wanted to mention when I'm doing these kind of things that we're doing right now. So let's look at this guy here. Hang on, let me screen cap the room one more time. Okay, that's it. Oh, where's my other one? Oh, well. Okay. Okay, so this thing that we're starting to do now, we're starting to caricature. And stuff. I just want to talk a little bit about, I usually do this in pencil. And the reason I usually do this in pencil is it feels more organic to me. Now, that's just me. It's not that I never just do it on the tablet, I do, but for some reason, I like to draw this way with a pencil. It's a little harder to do digitally. I can stay a little looser. And also, I can find the anatomy and things a little easier, okay? And this is a pretty common thing. So let me pull this up. So I found some, I went and looked and found some drawings that I did in the saloon of people. So I was playing around with this guy. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to use that as a jumping off point. You guys can see my screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
I got to switch views. Hang on. Okay, so normally I'm starting this. You guys can see that too, correct?
Yes.
Well, technically, yes.
How about now?
Well, which one do you want us to see big?
The drawing.
Which
Oh my gosh.
drawing?
Am I not showing my camera?
You're showing
okay.
both, but which one do you want us to see? The like
The
The
camera.
clipboard?
clipboard
paper
or the
or
okay,
Photoshop?
the camera. Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna pin that then.
The other one's just for a reference point.
Okay.
But if I'm going to come in here and start developing this and start playing around with it, for some reason, I like to do this with pencil. It's just, it feels better to me, okay? If I was going to refine, or if I was going to come in here okay, now if I was going to come in here and adjust this and maybe push him a little thicker, that's why I like to use this. I can do things like this and things like this and serrated edges. That's why I like to use pencil. Okay, so let's just say I was going to play around with this a little bit. Make him a little thicker. Make his hat a little stouter. And have it follow his head shape, okay? Maybe add a little more information anatomically. I'm gonna have some of his hair pop out a little here. Then I'm gonna take this same guy in a minute. I'll take him into another way of doing this. So what we talked about here is that what we're doing here is finding shapes and refining, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I might start coming in here, which I like to do. And start going, maybe I like this a little bit, but I want to start refining a little bit. So I'm going to come in here. Like, I don't like the way his eye's working. So I'm going to put a little more in here. I'm going to come in with a graphite pencil now and just start reshaping and changing shapes and refining shapes. Basically, I'm coming in here and I'm pulling out the stuff that I like or changing the stuff I don't like. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which you see this all the time with like animators drawings and things like that. I'm sure you guys have seen it. But it's a really smart way to work. Bow his neck a little more. And I'm going to do that thing I always do when I got a hat shape. I'm going to knock a lot of this into shadow so I can mass all this together. And then with this, I can broad brush his shirt a little bit, maybe give it some pattern. He's a little younger. I'm going to give him some color on his beard and his nose. stick cheek mask shape. And then a little bit of 3-day beard. By the way, if you want to lift that out, don't erase it, lift it out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want too much of that, but I want a little bit of it, and I want to be able to see it. Now I'm just going to give them like a little plaid idea here. Fold on the shirt. And then the other collar back here. And I'm putting the other collar in silhouette so it sits behind. And a little there. I can take a little out of his eye. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what I usually am doing, I'm doing these pretty small, and I'm going through 100 of them. Really, you know, probably no bigger than, hang on a sec. No bigger than, I don't know, 2 inches, 1 inch or 2, 1.5 inches, something like that. And by the way, it doesn't matter what color pencil you use. I like to use a color erase, which is these, right? I like to use these because they don't go down that dark. Like with a color erase, you got to really bear down on it to get it very dark. If I go in, and then this will marry a Prismacolor pencil, right? So if this I think is a carmine red. If I go get a Prismacolor carmine red, it'll be the exact same red, only a darker value. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times over at Disney, I would use these two to do that exact thing where I could really rough it out with this. Then I go back in with the same color, only darker. In this case, I'm using a graphite over it, which is fine. You could use a black Prismacolor. Anything that differentiates the line work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about, now, if I got this refined, I would take it into Illustrator if I was going to ink it, okay? And part of that, hang on. Because Illustrator has this tool in it. It does this. Okay. How many people in here know how to use a pen tool?
You need to reshare your screen.
Really? It says it's sharing. Hang on a
Okay.
sec. Huh?
No, I was on the wrong screen. It was my fault.
Yeah, see? Taylor Cole White.
It's Taylor's fault to make her distracted.
Okay, so so look here. Because everybody gets intimidated by the pen tool, you absolutely have to know the pen tool, period, okay? Not just for this, for anything. That pen tool is in everything from Premiere to Photoshop, InDesign, and it's in everything, okay? Even video editing software has a pen tool in it, okay? But what I like about it, well, let's do this. Let's make a line that's not perfect, or that's got a little kink in it, like that. So all we did was the pen tool. I'm going to get rid of this fill. So I pull this forward and get rid of that because you don't have your swatches. You just have the line or fill, okay? So it's a black line. Let go of it. You can see it's not a good line, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Gilbert?
Yes.
I know you're looking at the screen, but it looks funny. Okay.
No.
Right here, if you see this little tool right here where it says smooth tool, it lives with this tool. This is the shaper tool. So if I drop it down, it's right there. Okay. Now, if I take this now, and I just come in here and I rub over it, it's going to start smoothing out my line. Which, by the way, is the greatest tool in the history of digital tools. Okay. So now I've got a pretty clean, I'm going to tweak it a little more right here. And the other thing is you can, and it's really set really well default now. It didn't used to be. But if I double click this, I can adjust the fidelity of it. I can make it more smooth where it smooths it out more or less. Now, if you go too far with it, it'll start really reshaping your line. Does that make sense? But where they're not at dead center, where their default is actually really useful, okay? Now, the second part of this is right here. So all we're talking about is the pin tool, the smoothing tool. Now I'm going to talk about the width tool, okay? Which is this tool right here. Because now I can come in here and I can hyper adjust the line. So let's grab our width tool. I'm just going to put one, I'll put it right here. And I can dial this in as thin or thick where I want. Like here, I don't want that hard edge at the end. So I'm going to come in here and zoom in and just pull it in. So now I've got a perfectly tapered line, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to go back and adjust that, okay, so can you see why that's so valuable?
Yeah.
It's why you see so many inks now that are so perfect. They're doing them in Illustrator, okay? So let's look at this and go, if I dropped this guy into here, and let's go back now. So this just has layers just like Illustrator or Photoshop, okay? Oops. And let's go, I would have dragged this in here. I'm gonna let go of that for a second. And I would have this, which is my drawing, right? Because I want to ink it. Oops, I shouldn't have moved it. But I ghosted it down, just like you would do in Photoshop if you were going to do an overlay drawing, doing this in Photoshop, okay? Now I'm going to lock it. I'm going to go up here, and then I just gave it a basic outline. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, because what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fill this, I think, actually. I'll fill that. And I'd have to go in. I want to adjust a couple things. I don't like that. And then I'd have to come in here. I like to come in and do this. Like make sure that this is overlapping and where it should. I think I'm going to smooth this out a little. That bump right there, I don't like it. And then all this I'd probably play with, but I'm not going to do too much of it. See how it's getting, yeah, there we go. What I want to do here is smooth off. I don't like that. It's a little too much. It's a little too sharp for me, but I'm not going to change it right now. And then here, I'm going to pull this back a little bit. And then here you can see a kink right there. I don't want that. And maybe I can get rid of that one. That's a little better. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, and I would go in and I would clean up all my line work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take this guy and I'm just going to fill this. Oh, shoot. And I'll fix that later. I'm going to change it. But what I'm basically going to do now is come in here and start taking my width tool and start shaping this out a little bit. Because if you notice, without that line, it's not a very interesting drawing. Without a nice kind of thin, thick idea. Who's got their
What's
mic
the
on?
What's the shortcut for the fill?
If you want to flip it, it's X. See that?
How do you fill it though? I guess I don't even know how to
Okay, here.
fill a selection.
Here's the thing. If I take a shape, and now see how it's got a line? So if you look right here, if I go X, it'll pull this forward. That's my line. So if let's say I didn't want a line, I just wanted to fill. Then I would go right here and just go, I don't want that. I could hit X, and now I just find a color. Let's pick red. And you can see right here, because I told it to fill the shape, it filled it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you see this? What you can see right here where the swatch and the fill is, right? Or the line and the fill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let's go through this one more time. If I come right here and I go, I don't want to fill anymore. Now I want a line. Now I would just pick line and do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then when you're done, because I know you're doing the rest of this
I
demo.
like you guys to ask questions as I'm doing this.
Okay. I didn't understand the part how it even created the line from your drawing in the very beginning.
Here's why. I was going to show you guys that process, but I'll show you real fast. So let's turn this back on and let's make a new layer, because this is how I did it. I did it right before class. And let's change this line color now to black. So I'm going to go over here to color. And then I'm going to pick this line. And I'm just going to go through here. Oops. And just do an outline of this thing and just try and get it, you know, as good as I can get it, which isn't going to be perfect by a long shot. Okay, so you can already see that I've got some problems with that line. It's wonky. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I turn this off, because what I always do is I turn this off to get an actual sense of what it looks like. And I've got this kink right here, so I might just come in now and go smooth that out, and probably the same thing here. And still a little more. And then I'm going to turn this back on. Now, the one thing here you have to get used to is using your line tool. Your line tool. Your pen tool, I'm sorry. And I'm just going to do a really basic. Now, I don't usually, because, okay, here's the other thing. I don't ever do this in a way that a lot of times it's taught where they're closing all the shapes. And I can tell you about this later. Don't worry about it. I want ultra control over it. Because if I have ultra control over it, then I can take it further. And I'll show you something here. Hang on. And there's two ways we can do this, you guys. We could do it just as line. I'm really talking about line right now. Or we can do it as fill, is just shapes, okay? And I like to actually do it just shapes. So, and I'll go back to this line thing here in a minute. If I go here. So if I take something like this, okay? Here's how it's built. There's all my line work, okay? But how it's really built is actually really simple, which is
Really simple.
no, it is. Look, look at, watch. It's cut paper. That's all Illustrator is. Okay. So I'm going to unlock. I'm going to ungroup this because I used to do this with cut paper. I used to do this exact technique with cut paper before I knew anything about Illustrator. I don't even know if Illustrator was out yet. But if you look at it, it's just a bunch of pieces. And then things just placed over the pieces. Even this tie is that, and then some line. This is the background shape, which I don't need. It's paper dolls.
I needed to see this part of Illustrator. This just made me so much more excited about Illustrator.
Illustrator rocks.
Illustrator's your best friend.
Heck yeah.
I was just making actual paper cutout guys today, but with real paper.
I have little cardboard ones I've been working on for a long time.
And then look, let's look at this now. Look at this. Look at this, you guys. So let's take this. By the way, you can reuse stuff like this asset. So look at this too, you guys, because this is really super helpful. I've been using this program for 100 years when I was working, right? So like when I was doing this, I actually did this a demo, but then the station ended up using it. See all this foliage here? I took that out of another illustration I had because I go, I just need some general foliage, right? And then I just had this, basically this shape. And then I just came in here and kind of repeated it and put them all together. And then here, this car is the same idea. That's, what's her name? Angeline's car. Look. Let's unlock some more. Oops. Gotta ungroup it a little more. Okay, so there's the side piece. There's the main piece of the car. There's that, there's that. There's that. And when you tear it apart, you can see there's not a whole lot to it. And then her hand. And a little bit of shape line stuff. And that's it. Okay, so that's if you were going to go down the rabbit hole of it just being a basically shape. Does that make sense, Jesse?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
If you go in, and again, if you want to do this, because you could do this, you know, on anything we're doing in here, make sure, you know, and you want to go over it with me in real time, then make sure that you guys Zoom with me, okay? Because then I can go much more down the rabbit hole and kind of walk you through it. And you're going to see it's really not, it's really getting the line tool down, the smooth tool. And then there's like one other aspect to it if you want to do the shapey thing. Because the interesting thing about Illustrator is that you don't use it in the way you think. You use it a lot by using other shapes and cutting out other shapes. And it's crazy fast. Does that make sense? And then what's interesting about it is this particular thing, I did a bunch of the, so this is another thing that's interesting to me about Illustrator. I did a bunch of bits and pieces of this, like at lunch and stuff, okay? So like this back here, the city hall right here is right here. Hang on a sec. Right here. And it was just from a doodle that I did at McDonald's. Okay. And then I just started building on top of it. Does that make sense? And this is super simple because look, I mean, this is literally just geometry. And then repeated shapes like this shape. I just took this shape and went. And that's it. So a lot of times I can make one shape and repeat them. Like if they're windows or something, I repeat them, right? And then even if I want to go change them up so they aren't all the same, then I can come in here. Let's say I want to change them up and I can go, okay, now I'm going to change them up like this. The thing I like about Illustrator is it's a very straightforward program. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
it's really straightforward. It's paper cutouts mostly, or it's what I just said with the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. We'll get rid of that. And then, okay, so all that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with this, I just go through here and I would just I'm just outlining with the pen tool. Does that make sense, Jesse?
Yes.
Okay. And what I don't want you to do, because a lot of people tell you this, is they go, okay, like when you make a shape, they'll go like this. Let's say this mustache shape. They'll go, okay, you got to close it. You got to close this shape off so you can fill it. Don't do that. It's actually looks really cheesy and it looks amateurish. Okay. So what I tend to do is I get this going as a line, and then I just put another layer under it, and I just put my color underneath it. Then I can do it however I want. Make sense? Because I don't want to be locked into all these shapes have to be closed, or they're going to end up looking. You can't do what you want to do. You're not. It's not going to be expressive at all, and it's going to look. It just always looks really amateurish to me. And then they don't put any. And here's the other thing with the pen tool, you guys, and this width tool. The width tool is doing, I used to do this by hand before they had the width tool in Illustrator, okay? It was a real pain. And then people go, well, why don't you use the thin, thick brush in there? The reason I don't use the thin, thick brush in there is that it doesn't do it right because it goes by, you can only do so much with it. So there's no personality of line really to it. It looks like the stock Illustrator thin, thick brush. Does that make sense? Which I don't want to do. I want to ink it the way I want to ink it, okay? So let's go back here. And then I would just come in here throughout this thing. And I don't like this beard shape. I would totally reshape that, but I'm not going to do it right now. And that's probably a little thick, but that's all right. I don't want that one there. And you got to be careful, like a little, you don't really have to be that careful, but you got to go, where's the best spot for me to, oops. For me to, like probably right here. Yeah, right there. And then I can come back in here and smooth. Oops. And then like here, I don't like those fat marks on the end of it. So I'm going to go back here, zoom in here. Like I don't want that. I want it to go like that, where it gets thinner. I probably wouldn't want it that thin, so maybe I can come in here and fatten it out here.
Mike, can you use the width tool on the thin thick line?
Yes.
Okay.
Like on the line that I've already done thin thick on?
Yeah, well, just like, because then, like, if you started the line so you didn't have to, like, go in and fix all the tips, like, it would do the tip for you, and then you could just thin thick the rest of the line yourself.
I don't know if you can do that.
Oh, okay.
But you can, if you're going to go in and readjust a thin, thick line, you go back to your width tool and then find your original point, which is right here. See how it locks on it?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can come back down here. Because if I do it over here, it'll pinch it. See that?
Yeah.
You got to go back to the original thin, thick thing. But basically, to do that thin, thick line thing, you just need your pen tool, your smooth tool, and your width tool, and that's it. And you can go in here, and when you see, like, a place where you see this a lot is, like, if you look at coloring books now, they're, like, so perfectly inked. It's all Illustrator now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people used to have to go in and, you know, do all that with a brush and stuff. It was a nightmare. It's not a nightmare. I mean, you get used to it, but. And then this one I'm going to open up a little, so it just has some. And this one probably go a little fatter, a little thinner. Maybe pull this down a little bit. But I would probably do this. I'd refine my drawing a little bit doing that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because for me, for some reason, I just feel like I've got all this control, obviously, when I'm working with a pencil. And then I'm going to go in and start really refining my shapes and all that. And I'm not going to get the lines all perfect. I'm going to get all the shapes perfect and my ideas down and everything's working, because I know I'm going to take an Illustrator and make it perfect. It's just got to be balanced when I take it in. And I actually do a lot of stuff in Illustrator that's not, it's not totally finished, like that City Hall thing, but I know I can work it out in Illustrator. I wouldn't do that. I'd make sure it's fairly worked out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, and then you can go start combining these things and do, like, let's look at this one. You know, start getting this kind of stuff going on. Does that make sense? And then if you look here, so some of this and all this, okay, so some of what I just gave you guys, those custom brushes, like a lot of this stuff back here, this kind of random mark making and this stuff on the tree and this texture. If you notice this grain, this bark line in the tree is that thin, thick line tool. This is the thin, thick line tool, these little ripples, so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, by the way, I took this into Photoshop and I juiced it a little bit because I wanted a little more juice on the color. And I don't want to go back in and adjust all my colors in Illustrator. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Taylor Cole White, yes?
Yes.
What's your background, by the way?
Graphic design.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Your own thing?
So, huh?
Your own thing?
What do you mean?
Is it your own graphic design or just something that's in the program?
Huh?
He means your
Your
Zoom
background.
Oh,
Zoom background.
my physical background.
Thought I was talking about your background.
Yeah, you've asked me that before, so I'm very confused.
I already know I already know your background.
My physical Zoom background is from a painting in Venice, Italy, from the Getty.
Oh, that's cool.
Or not, the Peggy Guggenheim Museum, not the Getty, Peggy Guggenheim.
Okay, you guys, one
I
more
don't
thing
know
on
who
this.
painted it.
Okay, so this is a simpler version of the same thing. Very few, there's a little bit of line, a little bit of knot line, okay? And then over here, what I like about this, especially if you're a graphic designer, is then I can create all the assets that go with it by pulling out these assets that already exist and start to make things like borders and things like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Really simple. And here's the thing with this tool, it saved me a million times work-wise, okay? Because I've done a ton of these things like I just showed you, like whatever it is, kids illustrations or whatever, this kind of stuff. And I'd always go to Illustrator because I can do that in like a day, you know what I mean? Or a couple hours. And I always say this, I did like a flashcard set that was all, you know, characters and kind of animated looking and all that kind of stuff. And that's 26 illustrations. I did it in 2 days, right? Because I would just whip out the thumbnail, I'd send it over to the client, they'd approve it, it'd come back, and I'd just go. And I'd get them to approve 4 or 5 at a time. And then I just went, you know, all day and all night the next 2 days, but it got it all done and got it to the printer in time. And that's because of Illustrator. If I had to do that by hand, yeah, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it that fast. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this thin, thick line thing makes sense, correct? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like the group yeser.
Okay, that's good. I like that. Okay, now there's just a little bit I want to say about Photoshop because Photoshop's a little more straightforward. Oh, and by the way, look at this. Because I just found this person. And it's sort of, but look at his line stuff. Right? But I think he's actually inking some of this by hand. I don't think all of it is, but I think some of it is. Because if you look at this one here, he's got a brush right here. And when you zoom in on it, it actually looks like hand inking. You see that?
That's so nutty.
It's great.
Or the other stuff is all Illustrator?
I don't think it's Illustrator. I don't think this stuff is Illustrator. I think some of it's, and maybe all of it. I think, because when you get up in on it, it actually looks like traditional inking.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could make it look just like traditional inking like this. This could be Photoshop, okay? So just know that, I mean, that could be Photoshop. And I suspect that some are. Because there's very few illustrators that you look at nowadays that at some point, I was just listening to Travis Louis, actually. And he was saying, like when he does his stuff traditionally, but then when it comes back for changes, you know, then he goes into Photoshop and he makes the changes in Photoshop. He doesn't do it on the painting. right? And he was saying the same thing. He goes, thank God for Photoshop, because I would never have time to make these deadlines. Okay. I don't know how he really has time to make his deadlines anyway, but he does, right? I mean, those two big illustrations I just showed you in the New York Times are him, you know, and that's acrylic. That's not Photoshop. I mean, and look at this. Point being, though, it's always going to get touched by, or not always, but usually it's going to get touched by digital.
Yeah.
Unless you're a purist, and I'm not a purist. I want the check to clear. I want to get my check. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you do. At the end of the day, you want to get paid.
Yeah.
You want the job over, and then it goes into the queue to get
Yeah.
paid, and you're on schedule, right?
Yeah.
But his stuff is like got this very smoothed out quality to it, which is kind of trippy to do in paint
Acrylic.
or an acrylic. Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And all this stuff is just kind of old, like, I don't know, Victorian.
Yeah, I know.
Whatever this is.
Yeah.
Curiosities or whatever. But look how smooth they are.
Mhm.
And by the way, he's doing that with like a number. He has a, this is weird. I didn't know he did this. I suspected there was pencil underneath it, and there is. So he does some pencil, then he puts a wash, and then he's got a brush that's like this wide, like a hockey brush, but it's like this wide. And I guess he puts the paint down, he takes the whole thing, and he just smooths it all out in one big stroke. And then it picks up the pencil underneath and smooths out the pencil, right? And that's what I'm always talking about in illustration class, is all those recipes that people come up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just saw an interview with him. It's the first time I've seen him talk about how he does his work. But anyway, really nice inky stuff. And then and then his colors, clearly, that's digital.
Those are cool. I like that. I kind of like that style. It's just
Yeah,
kinda
it's
like,
cool. You could do it on this one if you want to try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm showing all this to you guys tonight, because now it's like, okay, we talked about traditional inking, watercolor, you know, all that stuff. And now here's, you know, there's also the digital version of it. And there's also what he's doing, where it looks to me like he's traditionally inking his work, and then he's scanning it, he's coming into Photoshop, and then he's painting it, right?
Yep.
And it looks great. And it's the same thing as we talked about before with the inking, where the ink is really holding the whole thing together. So he's going in and painting these things like nothing flat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or this guy, it's a different thing, but just on an Illustrator note. Because I really like this guy's stuff. This guy does a lot of like natural stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And man, this is like, you'd be shocked how easy this is to do. Okay. He's repeating shapes all over the place in these things. They're very simple, flat shapes. But what's really interesting about him, if you look at his client list, it's exactly what you think. It's like REI, National Forest Service, like all these outdoor companies, they go
Outdoor
right to
stuff.
him. Like he cornered
Yeah.
that market, you know, because he really focused on it. And it's really smart. He's also got Disney. He's also got, you know, a bunch of just all these huge things. And I'll bet you when Disney goes, hey, we want to do this Fab Five thing where they're all camping or something, they're going to go to him.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you? He's kind of
Yeah.
cornered that market, and he's specializing in it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, the if I was going to go in here now, and Photoshop to me is a little more straightforward, except for one thing, which is I think it's this one. Same thing. I'd pull it in, I'd ghost it down, you know, and start to go in and do my ink. Same thing. The only difference here is what I'm doing here. Where'd my pen go? Hang on, you guys. I just misplaced my. Here it is. Okay, look up here, you guys, because this is important. Now, I just gave you guys a bunch of brushes, and some of them are these rusty nib ones. These right
Those
here.
I have those. I have those
Yeah.
on my iPad.
Yeah, they're really good. But
Yeah, they're fun.
so these have a lot of nice. Number one, if you're going to ink anything in Illustrator or Photoshop, make sure that you got a nice thin, thick line, and also make sure that right here, where it says smoothing, you've got to play with that. Because if I don't have anything, right now it's on 12. So let's see what it does. That's pretty nice. Okay, what it's doing is it's smoothing out my line. So let's go get rid of it. That's not too bad. But when I go in here and I start to ink something, see how it gets wonky on me like that? Now, I should also turn my board like this. If I was doing the bottom of the nose, I should turn it that way. But if I put this up, let's put it to 20 for the heck of it. See how it smooths out my line? And another thing that I want people, because I get people and they go, well, that's cheating. It's not cheating. What it's doing is it's emulating you drawing on paper, because this is like drawing on an ice skating rink, which means your line is just sort of out of control a little bit because the surface is very slick. Okay.
The
And
point
what
is
I
to work smart.
What's that?
The point is to work smart.
Yes. But it's basically, for me, it just feels like I'm building the resistance and the friction of the paper back into my curve. So I'm not wildly out of control. Does that make sense? But and then the other thing that's an advantage with this is that a lot of times when I screw up a line in here, I can come back into the line, like let's say here, like that's a screwy line, it's not clean. And I can come in here and I can go, let's just use this. And I'm gonna fix that a little bit. But a lot of times what I do is I come back in here with my eraser and I just come back in and recarve the line a little bit. And by the way, it's the same thing people do with inks. If you go look at inks, you'll see where they recarve the line with graphic white, which is basically like whiteout. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also wouldn't use a brush that's just fuzzy. I'd probably go in and find me a nicer, a little more, maybe just this one. Let's see if this will do it. Yeah, that's not too bad. Because that just cleanly gets rid of it. And I'll reshape my line a little bit. I'm not going to do it everywhere, but I'll do it here and there. And I'll especially do it on things like this nose shape, which is kind of a little bit of a tricky curve for me to go from here and then go whoop, all the way around, right? I'm going to kind of come down and then catch it again. And then I might go in and kind of recarve that shape a little bit. Does that make sense? And then it's going to start getting a nice thin, thick line thing, which is what I'm after. So let's go here. I'm going to try this one. See, too much. And the same thing here. I might do that same thing here. I might let that not be connected. And then here I might do this. And the thing I don't like about this pencil, I like this pencil for drawing, but I don't like that it's got a ratty edge. So I'm going to come back in here. I think I was using this one, I think. Nah, it's too ratty. Let's go back. I can't remember which. Oh, that's a pencil. That's why. I don't want a pencil. Let's try this one. I come back in and clean that up, clean this up. And the same thing with this ear shape. I'm going to go back to my eraser, clean up this edge a little bit. So I like to go in, and I don't think it's unusual at all, and clean up my shapes by recarving them. Now, if you throw down the line perfectly the first time, it doesn't matter. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
See, I like the line of this brush, but I don't like the feel of it. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
like
I
the
know what you
feel
mean.
of my usual drawing brush. It's got a really good sort of, it feels almost like a grease pencil or something. And this one's a little, I'd have to probably, oh, there's no smoothing on it. That's why. That's why. I still don't really like it that much. And then I got to figure out how much of this stuff do I want to put in. Do I want to put in more sort of information, like hatching information, which I probably would, and I'd probably keep building it up, like here. How am I going to handle the hair? I keep wanting to go in and do, oops, that's too big. Maybe that. Maybe here. Yeah. And then I'd probably go into pure black. And I could use something like that to start indicating, without using value, that maybe it's going into gray hair because I'm breaking it up into a halftone. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's also, you guys, a really good way to practice your regular inking, because you can work out a lot of stylistic things that you want to do. Like how much, like this guide I just showed you. If you look at his line, he's got a really unique line thing he's doing. I mean, look at the shapes in here. Look at the shapes. Look at these shapes in his hair right here. I mean, they're really thought out. You know what I mean? But if you notice, he'll start, he's repeating the same ideas because that's just his stylistic bent, Hang on. Look at this. He's doing the same kind of idea. Look at this in the hair. He's sort of got these contained shapes, heavy, halftone, and then it goes into this sort of halftone idea inside the shape. Does that make sense? It's really interesting. And then he's cross-hatched it here. Cross-hatched it here, where it's just sort of traditional inking. Look at this core shadow he got right there in the beard. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gets a little darker on the line, then he pulls it out into a halftone onto the face. It's really nice. I just found this guy today in a Rolling Stone. And then these, I don't know if he's doing these traditionally. I mean, I would do this in Illustrator, or I might, and another thing, by the way, you guys, you could go from here, you could take your line work from Illustrator, obviously, and put it into Photoshop and start painting it in Photoshop, correct? Which is probably what I would do, but I tend to paint everything in Photoshop too. I mean, Illustrator also, if I'm using Illustrator. So anyway, once you start getting a little bit of line on this thing, you can see how it starts to come alive a lot more, correct? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And at some point I have to stop screwing around with it. I might be able to put a few shapes in here. And again, I'd probably go into a different layer maybe and do this. Oops. I'd have to recarve this shape, but this will work fine. In the shadow value, probably pull it back a little bit. And now I could come in here maybe and go, okay, that's going to be my, let's see if I can capture it. That's going to be my gray value. I want it a little darker. Oh, I've got it. I've knocked back the opacity, so let's just put it on a different layer. Now it's a little too dark, but I can change that. You just come in here and start to, now this actually is where my other brush will be better. And I can start to create all my shadow values in here very quickly. And I'd have to go out and erase a few of these. If I go over the line a little bit, I'd have to go in and erase them out, which is no big deal. Let's soften this up. You know, and I just keep going, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I could go over this and do, and I'm not going to go into that right now. I could go over this and do a grisaille technique. I could build all my values, and then I could go over it and start glazing color over it like an oil painting, and I could have it done in an hour, right? And by the way, you'll get a lot of calls for stuff to be done in a couple hours. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a big shock to me when I got out of college, because, you know, you work on stuff for a week or two in college, and you get out and you do that in a day. Like something you do in 2 weeks, they're going to go, can I get that by noon? You know, and you're like, are you kidding me? And that's how you get really fast, you know, because you got a gun to your head all the time. You know, with these people putting a gun to your head all the time. Okay. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
So if you're going to ink, you got to make sure you got a really nice, thin, thick brush, a tapered brush that, you know, pressure sensitive, obviously. And another good thing, by the way, because I talk to people all the time, they go, I don't have a tablet or anything. It's like, then go use Illustrator, because you don't need a pressure sensitive brush, right? And then you can go in there and just tweak all the thin thicks all you want, right? And like something like this, it's just simple. I'd probably do it in Illustrator, because I can ink this whole thing in like an hour and have it done. Then if I want to bring it into here, if I want to do a more painterly kind of paint job on it, I'll bring it in here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm just doing a flat kind of thing, I'll take it into Illustrator. Okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse.
Yes.
There's another thing. I'm gonna send a couple of videos to you guys. One of them is just, I just sort of riffed on creating this sort of line work that I was just showing you, you know, with the thin thick thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sort of riffed and did this. I just took a sketch out of my sketchbook and sort of inked it. Okay. So I'm going to send that to you guys, and you can scrub through it. And probably in the first 25 minutes, it covers everything I just talked about. But I'm also going to send you one that's about shape building. Okay. And if you sort of want to go down this rabbit hole, like if you look at it, like look at it if you want, and go, because there's probably going to be some stuff in there that you go, I don't quite get that. I don't quite get this. Then Zoom with me and I'll go through it with you. Okay. Because I can actually get you started on Illustrator from a dead start pretty fast. It's actually, you know, the curve of you learning how to use the pen tool and everything is about the only frustrating part. But everybody in that class, when I do that class, they learn this stuff like that. Okay. I mean, they're making really nice stuff very quickly. I mean, obviously that's because you're in a compressed class and you have to produce and you have to do all these different things, right? But it's, to get started on, it's just not that hard. Okay. Especially if you just want to start with inking or inking and color. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
What were you doing in cut paper?
Actually, for the editorial piece, I don't think I'm gonna do it completely in cut paper, but I just felt like I was kind of getting stuck and I wasn't coming up with ideas. So that idea I sent you last night, I was like, I'm just gonna do it all in cut paper and just see what comes out,
Sure.
just to kind of get me away from like overthinking more ideas, you know.
Yes.
And
That's
because
one of
I'm
my,
really
that's
into
probably,
making puppets right now.
yeah, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, great. What it sounds like that you're doing to me is that you, which I think is really important, you're really exploring a lot of things, and it seems like you're having a lot of fun doing it, right?
Yeah,
Because to me, if you're not having
absolutely.
fun, if you're not having fun doing it, why are we doing it?
Mhm, exactly.
And there's so many people that you look at, you know, that they might have crazy, I love process, but you know, it doesn't have to be a process thing, but I love watching people's process, and especially if they have something like that where they're like, I take this and I do this and I do, and you're like, look, that's crazy, but it works. You know what I mean? And you
Mhm.
can tell they're sort of in that really creative space, and it's just where they, you know, sometimes for me, it's just how do I enter the space? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how do I get into that space, you know? And then to your point, what you just said, I think one of the hardest parts is when you're working on something and you're coming up with ideas, and then you're either, and this is what happens to me all the time, I think I'm on fire, and then all of a sudden I go, these 10 things you just came up with are the same things you've been doing for all day. It's not new. You're just, it's really frustrating to me, and sometimes I don't see it, or I
Mhm.
get X amount of ideas out and I'm just dried up and I can't think of anything. You know what I mean? And I know
Yeah.
that everything I've already looked at is not that great.
Hmm.
That makes sense. I mean, that's what happens to me all the time. And then I
Yeah,
just got
that
to go
does
through
make
that
sense.
painful process of like landing on it, you know, finally finding it. It's like
Hmm.
mining for gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
That's
basically,
why I kind of like with this project, at least, I just was like, I have to switch mediums, which is usually when I'm working on anything and I feel like I've run into a wall. I'm just like, okay, I kind of like rip it away from myself. Like, you're not allowed to have pen and ink anymore. Like,
yeah,
you go do embroidery. And I'm like, okay, then I get into that. And then I'm like, okay, hit a wall with that. Okay, go make a collage. You know, I
yeah.
just feel like my stuff is on like a wheel, so I just keep spinning it, especially when I feel like I'm not coming up with a better idea and I'm just, yeah, hitting the wall.
And what, you know, what's interesting to me about the whole thing is that I always say, like, look, there's a methodology to all this stuff. You have to learn a methodology. And I think I've said it with you guys. It's like what I always thought when I was a kid. I thought these were magical people. They got hit by lightning and they can do this amazing stuff. And I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm not a magical person, so blah. But then, you know, and then I found out like, oh, you can actually learn methodology and how to do it and get good at it. But then there is still the magical X factor of like, where do these ideas come from? Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like you'll start doing, you probably already are doing it, where you're doing stuff and you go, where did that come from? Like, where did that come from? I do that all the time. And I go, I have no idea where that came from. Or I'll look at a drawing from a long time ago and I'll blow it up and I'll go, I don't even know how I did that. Like, you know, but you know, you were just in the zone when you did it.
Hmm.
And you're not making all these decisions, because I look at a lot of stuff and it's interesting. I can look at them from a long time ago. Now, sometimes I look at them and I go, that's a horrible drawing. But sometimes I look at it and I go, man, that looks like the kind of drawing that I'd be commenting on if it wasn't mine. But I go, man, that's cool the way you did that and that and that. You know what I mean? And it's on your
Hmm.
own drawing, you know. But it's, to me, that stuff's always like almost subconscious. It is subconscious, you know.
Yeah.
But it's floating around back there because you're doing your work and you're doing your work and you're learning your methodology, and then it disconnects. Hopefully, that's what I hope for. Is it
Hmm.
disconnects from your brain and now you're just doing it. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then
Absolutely.
once in a while you sit down, you go, okay, I need to. And then the part comes where I sit down and I go, I need to pop this thing. What can I can put a little core shadow there. And then I go back a little bit to my knowledge of technique and all that to make it balance out and all that stuff. And that's where all that stuff, because if you remember before you start learning anything, or for me, I mean, it was very frustrating because I literally didn't know anything about drawing. So everything I wanted to try and make happen in my drawings, I didn't know how to do it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And what's interesting now is when I look back and I go, everything I wanted to learn how to do or to do to my drawing was really easy, or really simple. It
Hmm.
wasn't like big crazy stuff. It was just very simple. Just like we're looking about with that guy right now with that line work, like the way he's doing those sort of graphic shapes in there, it's really beautiful. And I'm not saying it's simple, but when you really look at it and decipher it, it's like, okay, I get what's going on here. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And you can sort of reverse engineer people's technique. I do it all the time. It's just fun. And you go, oh, you know, he repeats that all the time. He does that all the time. And then when he does a core shadow, he does this. And then when he does this, he does a contain line, he does this. And it's just, you know, your shape language that you develop for yourself, right? And then one other thing about this, and I'll shut up. If I can find this. These are ones. These are ones by Ben Butcher. Right? So Seattle, right? See the little dome?
That
Yeah.
is that is
dome?
wild.
Yeah, and then look.
Pointy dome, the Space Needle.
Space Needle?
And then here's Ben right here. He looks like the lost member of ZZ Top. Gosh darn it, come on. And then he did, okay, so what's interesting about Ben used to be the person I worked with at Pixar, okay? So Ben used to work at Pixar. Now he's the VP over at Funko Toys, right? VP of Creative. Really great guy. So he gets this like painterly thing going on.
Yeah. Wow, this is cool. And this is all paper. And then is he also going in there with paint?
He might be doing a little bit. I'm not sure, because
Like,
a lot of them I've seen that he's done to me just look like pure collage. Look.
that one with the bubbles, the bubble part of it just kind of looks like he could have gone in there with like white gouache.
And who
or
cares if he's
acrylic.
doing that? You do that. Right?
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'm just trying to also figure out, you know, what people are doing all the time when I look at their art.
Yeah, I get,
Like
yeah.
admiring it and also being like, wait, how did you make that? How did you do that? Whatever, you know?
I'm trying to find this other one he did, which was Ben Butcher collage.
There's such like a pixelated aspect to his art too that is like, my eyes are automatically wanting to strain a little bit to try to like get it in focus.
So then, okay, so this is what's smart about him. He's a very talented guy, correct? He can draw his ass off, by the way. But he liked doing this collage thing, so he's at Pixar, and then he did a kid's book based on Wall-E, all with cut paper.
That's so cute.
I mean, how great is that?
That's incredible.
I don't think that. Look at it. There it is. I remember when he did this, I just thought it was super cool. Actually, I should buy this. Oh, that's the Art of Wall-E. I don't know if it's still around. But anyway, he did the whole book like that. I think I remember him saying something about at the time that he was swamped with this thing and he was trying to hit a deadline or something. Because this is not fast moving work. You know what I mean?
Uh-oh.
And I used to do it. I still have them. I'll try and find them. I think they're in my storage unit. I was proud of them. I thought they were cool. But who knows now? I might look at them now and throw up, but hopefully not. I think those hold up. I think there's a couple of things I did at Fullerton that hold up. Probably 5 things.
Is it cut paper things? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, because I didn't know. I don't know if Illustrator was around yet. I think it was, but I don't even know if I was aware of it. If it was barely around. And so I like that flat look, that old flat advertising look. So you used to be able to buy this stuff called Pantone paper. You guys know what Pantone is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You used to be able to buy this Pantone paper, and I found this. It was weird. I think it was down the street from Fullerton. There used to be a gas station. There used to be a art store down the street on State College and Chapman. Anyway, they had this big long aisle with all these little cubbies in it, and they were just stuffed full of Pantone paper. And you'd pull it out, and it would just look like a big Pantone swatch, except it was kind of like a plastic paper. And it would say at the bottom, it'd say Pantone 109C, right? And, you know, I just pull the colors I want, and I go back, and then it was a really long process. I think I reversed everything, flipped it, and then transferred, you know, rubbed down the transfer drawing onto it, and then I cut each piece, and then I put them all together. You know what I mean? And I did a couple of them. Some of them were really broad based. And then I did a couple, like I did one of those, I forgot if it's like where the dancers are from. They have these really elaborate costumes and it's a real cool looking dance thing. And I did like a poster for it. And that had a billion little pieces and stuff on it. It took forever, but it was really fun. You know what I mean? And then when you got it done, it was cool, man, because you put it on the crit reel. Everybody's like, whoa, you know, because you just blew everybody out of the water because nobody did anything that cool. You know what I mean?
Find it.
Huh?
I want to see it. I said, find it, please.
Yeah, I have them. I know I have them, but I think it's in my storage unit, which I never go to. But when I go down there, I'll grab them. Or maybe I'll make a trip down there just to grab them. I'm pretty sure that's where it is. I can't, or maybe it's at my house. I don't know. I think it's in my storage unit.
I say that's a worthy trip.
We're going to touch. It is worth a trip. And the other thing is I like to show, I think it's smart to show work when it's not great, you know? I think some of that stuff, I think is good. But boy, can I pull a whole bunch of stuff that is not. You know what I mean?
Would be happy to see that stuff as well, of course. I think it's
No, go
nice
ahead.
to sometimes see when artists post their stuff from, like, you know, if it's like when they were in college or like 10 years ago, and that kind of is like gives me hope. Sometimes I'm like, oh,
absolutely.
no, they drew stuff like that one time.
Oh my
too.
God.
Okay, they were not always wizards.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I've seen people like that, exactly what you're saying, where I'm going, you know, I think they're absolutely amazing. And then you see stuff like you're talking about and you go, holy shit, that looks as crappy as my stuff looked back then.
It's nice to know other people suck too.
Yeah. Well, it's not really that, it's not that you suck. It's that you're going through a learning process. You know what I mean? It's not that anybody sucks. It's that you're going through a learning process. And this is not easy. Like you guys pick something that's really hard to do. Okay. I'm not saying other things aren't, but this is really hard to do, man. This isn't just like, hey man, you punch this number times that number and you get that number. That's not what you're doing here. You know, you're doing this number and that number, and the end result could be 45 different end results. You know what I mean? And you can change all the numbers all the time and get different numbers. You know, it's like, and then you have to figure out when the hell it's done, which is hard to do. You got to figure, you know, there's so much stuff in there that's just hard to, you know, it's so much stuff to learn. Okay. So the thing is that main thing with that is that make sure that you're just, don't do what I see a lot of people do where they think, you know, you start showing them, I don't know, drawing from life, you know, sketching or whatever. And they think they should be good at it in 2 weeks. It's like, you're not going to be good at that in 2 weeks. It's going to take a while. You know what I mean? You got to now do, I don't know. And to me, that makes it more fun because when you achieve it, it's a kind of a rare thing. It's a rare thing. Some of the things that people do, you know, they're very rare things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Which means, you know, what you're doing is unique. I mean, come on, people come up to you and trip out when you're doing stuff all the time, probably now, right? If people are looking at your work.
Yes, the 6-year-old I live with think I'm great.
Yeah. You know, and it's, and everybody comes up and they go, God, people say this all the time on a daily basis. If I'm outside, they go, I would kill to be able to do that. Or they go, man, I wish I could do that. Like I hear that all the time. And I always think about it and go, man, if I couldn't do this, it would have ruined my life. Because I just had to be able to do that. And if I never did, and if I would have went down some other path and never done it, I would just, it would have been a super drag. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then also make sure you get alligator skin and make sure, you know, once you know you're good, you know, yeah, sometimes somebody's going to say, I don't like that or whatever. That's fine, whatever. And if, once in a while, if you run into somebody who's just a snotty jerk, whatever, who cares, right? We all do. And to be honest with you, and I always want to say this, I haven't really worked with that many people who were jerks. Most of the people I've worked with have been pretty nice people. And I'd argue that most of the people that are very accomplished at something, a lot of times, especially artists for some reason, I think they tend to be more generous than jerks. And they tend to want to help you out a little bit. Does that make sense?
Honestly, to quote Rocky Horror, I didn't make it for you, I made it for me, is something I have to touch base on. For some people, if they don't like stuff, it's like, okay, well, not for you, so.
Well, if people don't like things, I think that's fine. I mean, you're not going to please everybody. That's just not possible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just not possible. So who cares? I mean, you know, I just want to have work that I know is of quality. That's my thing, right? And then you got to find the audience for your work, whether that's working, you know, in the studio system or galleries or doing what I did, where I did all kinds of stuff. That's what I like doing. Okay. So let's look at these real quick.
Do it all.
God, it looks like it's midnight outside, and it's like 5:51.
It's like reverse pandemic, where the days used to feel really long. Now the nights feel really long.
What's really weird is when you're in the office, because my office doesn't have any windows. And then when you're not used to the time change, then you go out, you go, oh, it's going to be like sunny. I'm going to go over and get a sandwich over the cafeteria, and you go outside and it looks like literally midnight when your brain was like, wait, it's going to be daylight, and it's long gone. I can't stand that. And by the way, we voted
The
this.
only thing I enjoy is that.
Hey, did you guys notice how good my router's working?
Yeah.
I thought that was, again, I thought that was going to get an applause. But my router, I'm very proud of it.
But if our router doesn't
yippee.
work, it doesn't really seem any different.
But I haven't been having any problems since I changed it. But now I probably jinxed it. Okay, where's Abigail? I think it's Abigail, right? Abigail.
Here.
Okay, what do you think?
So I don't know. I didn't like them that much on the first one. I ended up liking the girl in the right corner, but I felt like
This one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I liked her. I don't know. It's definitely rough for me because like I don't really draw faces. I'm more of like I pick like usually like something that I like to draw is like one item of a body, like so like one eye, like I'll work on just eyes or like just on hands. So like having to like work everything together is totally new to me. But I did have fun on her. She was like my favorite to work on. That one girl on the right.
Well, like this guy, I think if you just take this guy and just start pulling some of these things, I'm not worrying about what the likenesses are tonight. It's just, I'll go through a few of these. You know, I might have used this as a graphic shape, that he feels very cheekbony. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I might have pulled some of that, a little more of that in. And sometimes I'll do that. I mean, if I'm going for this sort of graphic thing, I like this shape. Like, I don't need to change that. You know, and yours are a little bigger, and that's fine. You know, maybe I'd point this out a little more. And you're thinking correctly. You're making some graphic shapes in here. Now I think you can just sort of refine them a little bit. That's about it. Like I probably might have done a little more of that, or at least tried it.
Okay.
And then I like this little bump, you know, and then maybe I'd separate the chin a little bit, get a little more of an ear in there. And you got the right idea with the hair too. Like you're doing a sort of graphic idea with the hair. I just get it a little more, you know, organized. And I think you're fine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then maybe a little bit of this under the eye, which you started. I mean, you have a lot of good shapes in here. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Because all I'm doing is I'm just pulling off of I'm riffing off what I'm seeing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Be careful with these eyes. They're getting cross-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
So if this one is facing this way, then this one is also got to face that way. Oops. See that?
Yes.
And then here, this could just get a little heavier. And by the way, it's not always to show like eye makeup. I do it with anybody because that top lid's got a little bit of weight to it. It also casts a shadow, so I can darken it up a little bit, and it sort of finishes the eye off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not hardly doing anything to this stuff. This is good. You're getting this cheekbone in there. That's a little heavy, but that's okay. What I just did. I might pull her hair down just a little here to separate it.
Okay.
But I think actually you have a good start here.
Okay.
Especially if you haven't done a lot of this. I think it's actually pretty good. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
And then I probably make this a little more prominent, that bun. Yeah?
Mhm.
So all I'm doing is again, I say this all the time. All I'm really doing is experience on this drawing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not a bad drawing. I like it.
Thank you.
And then these, we got to just get a little more. I might push this forward a little more. I don't know if I'd put the leg up. I might just do, big wide stance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Tilt the head back. If I tilt the head back, I want to see the nose this way a little bit. Eyes are going to be here. Mouth's going to be closer. Chin. I'm going to see the bottom of the chin a little bit. So on and so forth. But I mean, I get what you're trying to do here, the basic shape breakdown. Try and get it a little more. Whatever. A little more dynamic. But you can start off with these really simple shapes like that. That's fine. I'm going to give this person a dress for no reason. And then make sure, like with feet, this one's maybe facing towards the viewer. This one's sideways. And then I can start to build the rest of my shapes on here. Maybe I'll put this hand out and give him a staff or something. Okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
And then that guy, I got to go through these. There's a bunch of them on there. The problem is I get stuck on you guys' stuff and I like looking at it. How many pages did we say? 4?
3 or 4.
It's 4, right?
You said
You
4,
said
2
4.
caricatures and then 2 gestural ones.
That's right. Okay, so how come I only have 1 page here?
I don't have a good reason. I just got bored.
Bored?
Yeah, kind of.
All right, well, okay. I mean, it's hard for me to comment on it when there's 1 page. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, these are cool.
That's Mr. Bean over there.
That's not Mr. Bean. That's Sean Connery right there.
Poor Sean Connery.
Did you notice you didn't hear too much about it?
He passed away at the age of
Sean
90.
and Alex. So
Who?
sad.
No,
Alex Trebek.
I heard a lot about. You know why you didn't hear much about? You know why you didn't hear much about Sean Connery?
Because he said a bunch of dumb stuff in the 70s.
Yeah, but I guess he stuck to it.
I just expect that from men from the 70s, so I really just
I
try to
agree.
get over it.
Well, he's from way back. He's from way before that, actually.
Oh, I know. He's in an Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Yeah, I mean, he was around a long time ago. Is this Stephen Colbert right here?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, that's nice, man. I love the simplicity of that. That's just something I really love. Who's this right here? I like that too.
It's B. Arthur.
Oh, okay, totally. Yeah, this is Ian McKellen right here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I would put the darks in his eyes there. Oh, I see. You were talking about this one. I mean, these are really good. The only thing I'd say, like maybe on this one, but I mean, this is just nitpicky stuff. I'd loosen this up a little bit, maybe.
Can you repeat that? You cut up. You got cut off.
I'd loosen up his clothing just a hair. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I might darken up like the tops of their eyebrows, like we were just talking, or eyelashes, what we were just talking about. You don't want to make them look, you don't want to overdo it, but a little bit kind of ends the eye in a nice way, and it sort of suggests the eyelid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Same thing here. And also when somebody's short like this and you're doing that, make sure that I feel like the sort of squashed proportion feels super intentional. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I might push that a little more there. And then just again, I just loosen up these clothes just a little bit. I'd put that little dark loop right there to wrap it around the arm. Put this here. You know, there's not much to say about it. I mean, it's really good. That's the guy from House, right?
Yeah, it is.
Well, this B. Arthur one's great, dude. So's this one. Man, what I really love is what you're like this one. Who is this right here? I know who this is.
It's Betty White.
Yeah, okay. I love like you're doing the things exactly what I was talking about, where you're like pushing the eyes out further apart and doing weird things like that just makes the likeness kind of start to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really nice. Like this, just to show the weight. That's great. Again, here. Now, okay, this is where it gets tricky because you can do these in a sort of geometric way, and that's fine. I just feel like if you're going to do like this pointed leg, I might make sure that it feels intentional, that I'm doing a very sharp sort of geometric thing, right?
Right.
And then maybe I might round this and pull that off there just to suggest a little bit of weight to it. I might pull that overlap a little more. But that depends if you want to do this sort of geometric-y thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to, like this is probably going to get a cut line right there because these suits tend to do that. This is going to stair step a little bit. Now, you don't have to do that, but I do it just because it breaks up the silhouette a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
And I'm always wanting to break, and then use your blacks. But that's about it. Like this one's just a little bit looser, but I don't have any comments on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'd put a pocket there on his jacket, maybe. Might put a shoelace on there. Other than that, I don't really have any comments on it. You're doing exactly what I want. Like you're finding the graphic language that describes these people's features. Yeah?
Yeah.
I love that Colbert one. I don't think Colbert's that easy. I think Colbert's sort of a generic looking guy in a weird way. You know what I mean? So I don't think pulling off Colbert's all that easy.
Yeah, I saw what you mean. But I kind of saw the character he voiced from Monsters versus Aliens. Kind of use that as a reference.
Whatever works, it's working. Really nice.
All right, thanks, Mike.
I love this Ian McKellen one too. That's a great one. I love this like heavy eyelid thing, and I love that you did it without over describing it. Like you just did it by angling his eye down, which is exactly what I think is cool.
Right then.
It's really weird when somebody does it, man. How when they do it right, you know, when you see it, then you go, "Oh yeah, of course." But finding it's not easy, man. Okay, these are better, dude.
It's mine.
I know. These are better. I'm not quite getting a likeness yet, but the drawing is better. And okay, this is another thing where it's like you got the right idea where you're drawing. What happened there? Oh.
I did it with my finger, you see?
Okay. Well, then you get extra points for that. You know, you're seeing this, which is good. But what you got to do, I think, anyway. And again, we're getting into stylistic stuff. What's that noise?
What noise?
Oh, there's a noise.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I'm talking on the phone.
Look, stop doing this where you're drawing all this like hair stuff. Mass it together. Yeah? You hear me?
Yeah.
And then maybe find some line way of doing it or however you want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and then the same thing here with this hair. Look, he's got this super bitchin' hair, and I can just sort of put it together as a as one shape or as a few different shapes. And then I might even put a little bit of that. He's got some crazy cheekbones.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of his, you know, the under part of his eye. I don't want to overdo that because I don't want to make him look too old. He's not young, but he's not super old either. You know, and then I'd probably find something for this beard shape. Does that make sense?
Fuck.
Yes?
Yeah, yes.
So on and so forth. What the hell is that? Why do I have a tiff? Okay. But the drawings are better. Don't do corn teeth. Yeah? Mask those teeth together. And you can do it. Like you can do that smile and have it come down like that. But like maybe start by just putting that little gum line in the top, and then maybe then you go, okay, the mouth goes, and you can do little, you know, you can start to show little things, but don't overdo it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a little more like that. All right, better. And then these, same thing what I just said. The other ones, the shapes were better. Go back to the other shapes. Yeah?
Yes.
Those are terrible.
Why do I have a PDF?
Oh, I saved it as a JPEG and a PDF.
But they're both the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. No, they're not.
I just didn't send it in. I just sent it as a PDF instead. But
Okay, this one here is just too wobbly. Right? And then what are these for?
I don't know. That was just me practicing breaking outline and
stay on track. We're not doing, that's more like Saturday stuff.
Yeah, no problem.
This one's the most successful. Who is that?
It's terrifying. It's supposed to be Adam Sandler. I feel like I did better on Daniel Radcliffe.
Hey, look, it's not easy, man.
I thought I was JFK.
I like
Obama. It terrifies me. I did it.
I look like a Richard Nixon mask.
I did it in between work.
Robert.
On my sketchbook instead of my iPad. So I wasn't working digital, and it bothered me a lot.
What you
see paralysis demon?
Yeah, really.
I don't think. Look, that's a dangerous thing. That's a dangerous thing when you say, "I got to draw on a drawing pad or a tablet or something,"
Yeah.
or
I
in
just
my
have this
case, I
mechanical
like to
pencil
draw
I'm
on
using.
paper.
And it's
Wait a minute,
terrible.
I like to draw on paper, but I don't have to draw on paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really do believe that the goal is I go, if I give you a burnt stick, you're going to give me a good drawing, right?
Good point. Yeah.
Because drawing is drawing. Like, who cares what I'm drawing on? You know, I love drawing on anything. I don't care what it is. But, you know, and of course I have my favorites, of course. Like what I was just saying about what we were talking about earlier, I like to start on paper, but
Yeah.
I don't have to start on paper. And if I'm at work or something, I'm probably not going to. I'm probably just going to go right on the Cintiq because then when somebody goes, or if I go, okay, I just made 50 drawings of whatever it is, then I can go grab this one, grab that one, grab this one, grab all the good ones, lay them out on a page, boom, and I send them off. I don't have to scan them. I don't have to color correct. I don't have to do any of that crap because I don't want to do that. Okay. So there's a practicality factor to it. Now, if I start things, or if I was doing something like this, it's like some sort of face or something, or character design or something like that. I'm probably going to start with pencil. That's just me. Not always, but, and again, if I was sitting in an office or something, I'd probably start on that Cintiq. And I'll just get my groove going on the Cintiq, which, you know, I have to, and I don't know if everybody's like this, I have to shift my brain a little bit. But I have to shift my brain if I go to March Field and I'm drawing planes, and then I have to shift my brain if I go to Natural History Museum and I'm drawing dinosaur bones, and then once I'm drawing people again, I shift my brain into that. It's just they're kind of different compartments in my head. I don't know if everybody's like that or not. But it's the same thing with what I'm drawing on, whether it's paper or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I will say about this, though, okay, so, and I don't expect everybody to hit likenesses right away at all, okay? It's not easy. But I think that the idea of how you're seeing the overall shape here on this one is pretty good. I mean, you're seeing a head shape and you're sort of tweaking it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't think that's what I'm asking you to do. Does not happen overnight, okay?
Yeah, getting someone's likeness was really difficult.
It is difficult.
Dude, it's terrifying.
Well, what you got to try and do, and I get when you first start doing it, it's hard to go, go have fun with it, because you're going, I can't know how to do it yet. I get it, because I mean, we all go through the same stuff. But I would say sort of don't get totally hung up on the likenesses. Really try and just look at the basic shapes and things like that. And don't push yourself too hard on the likenesses yet. Try and get a handle just on seeing the big shapes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that'll help you out. Okay. Don't get all, because I'm not going to go, I don't think this is easy again. And I'm not going to go on here and go, you're not hitting likenesses after 1 week and I'm not going to do that. Okay. That's stupid. Okay. This is a process, and it's a process that I'm showing you how, basically a way of doing it. And if you want to keep doing it, you practice it like anything else and you work on it. Might take you, who knows how long, 6 months later or something, you start grabbing it. I've said this a million times. I'm just planting the seeds, and hopefully if you keep doing it, it pays off for you. Okay. And usually it will. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, it's not easy. And I sure as hell don't look at it from that perspective that I think it's easy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
I think I hit the
really hard.
Did you see the oh no, I guess not.
So what?
The Daniel Radcliffe ones?
Yeah, I saw them, but it's hard it's a PDF, so it's harder to open it in Photoshop and all.
Do you want me to send it as a JPEG, or is it already closed? It's already closed, huh?
No, I closed it. I mean, I have it.
Dang, because I was like kind of hoping to get critiqued on that one. Oh, that one, Jesus.
But see, and now I gotta do this. This is why I don't like stuff in PDF, because now I gotta move this over here,
looking,
and I got to do that. And then
no, that's fine. My bad.
Oh, this one opened up. That wasn't that bad. Okay. I think you're close. You're starting to hit them. Oops, what's going on? What? There. You're starting to hit them a little there, a little there. There's like things here and there where you're hitting them. And I was just doing this yesterday. Where I was going, oh, I'm kind of hitting the eyes a little bit. Oh, I'm kind of hitting that. And I'm kind of hitting this. but it's not all put together yet, but I kind of figured it out. You know what I mean? And this one right here reminds me of a Wayne Wright drawing. Hey, Jesse. Who's Jesse?
Yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah, right? It looks
Yeah.
like
And when you pulled that up the first time, that's the one that I was drawn to. That one looks really good, Caleb.
Yeah, I think so too.
Definitely Wayne White vibes.
Yeah, I think I was definitely hitting it. I gotta practice more traditionally. I just need to get a better pencil. I have like a lead crappy graphite.
Was this the last page you did?
Yeah, that's the most recent one I did.
Okay, well then you made a big jump.
You think so?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, now just do 100 of these.
Huh?
Do 100 of these because you're starting to get it here.
Okay, cool. Because I was working on a big project for another class, so I was like trying to get in as much as I could.
Don't ever tell me that.
So I was working in between my actual job. So I was trying to get as much as I could done.
What's the other class?
The other class is Ted Kuzma. He's it's for a character design class. So I'm working on 4 character design composition pages and
You can
whatnot.
drop that class. This class, the only one's important.
Oh my gosh. I will do my best.
Hang on, I missed one. Never tell any teacher that you're working on some other class more than their class. I don't piss anybody off.
I'm sorry. I'm working equally on both.
Okay, good. That's a good answer.
I'm not.
Who?
All right, I am. I am working not enough in all of my classes. Don't be offended.
Well, work harder. Look, here's the thing I always say about this stuff. It's up to you guys because I've had students and we're in a period like right now when we're just starting this kind of idea. And they got, I don't know, final another class. Of course you're going to pour on the on the stuff on your final and all that stuff. I get it because my class is a little lighter right now and that's fine. But just make sure you're managing your classes in that way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And what I usually see is that people will spend all their time on like, it's always character design or something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, the character designs don't look good. You know why? Because they're not informed by good drawing. And you're putting all this time into it and not putting time into the classes that are teaching the actual fundamentals to be able to do that job. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily. Where you at?
Here. So I totally forgot to write down likeness from caricatures. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And I just did like caricatures. Yeah. So my bad.
I don't care about that.
Okay.
I mean, it's still the same exercise. The only thing I like with the other ones is I can kind of see who it is and things like that. But I mean, it's the same exercise, correct? I mean, you're just trying to capture somebody's likeness in a simple way. What's going on here?
I focused too much on the face and it was just a lady in a wheelchair and her feet were just sticking up and it looked funny.
I think this one needs to be kind of going off like that. And this one needs probably is going to come towards me a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be more foreshortened.
Yeah. And this one's going to be more foreshortened. Exactly. And the feet are probably going to kind of go. Yeah.
It's really funny though. I liked it.
And then give me a little bit of this.
I ended up doing under sketches with color more just because I wanted to try to block out shapes, but it was a lot of fun and I think I might do some more of them.
You are going to do some more of them.
Yes, sir. Oh my God. Don't get sick.
And then your line quality here. Give me a little bit of line quality. Give me a little bit of indication of things. Yeah?
Yeah.
I might.
Oh, I like that. The bend in the knee.
I might just do, and you know, and then it's going to have probably a thing here, and then I'm going to see the other hand over there, and that kind of, and then this, I'd probably give it a nice dark value, so on and so forth, right? This is a good start.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
This is a good start. This is a good start. This is a really good start.
Yeah, that one was fun. She was very top heavy, tiny little bird legs.
And then these are your general ones. Which ones are first?
Those ones, the paper
These are,
ones.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I can tell. I know, because I've seen your drawing, obviously, so I know where you are when you're warmed up.
Mm-hmm. There should be one more. Did it send the same one twice?
Let me see.
They accidentally sent as HTIOC files instead of JPEG, so I had to try to re-upload.
What's an HTIOC file?
It's like a weird Apple one. Yeah, there's
Oh,
one
is that
missing.
the HEIC?
Yeah, that. Sorry. No, yeah, it's missing one. Let me resend it to the drive.
The drive's closed.
Oh, well.
I was like,
Oh, no, there it is. There we go. That's the
Okay,
one.
so this one's later, right?
Yeah.
What I love, okay, I'll show you the one I really like. This one.
Yeah, I like the old man too, the old Mexican man. He had very like triangular eyebrows.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love this, like this little, these hints, you know, in this square.
Mm-hmm.
And then this, a little round, and then this. I would have put something here just to finish that off. Now, normally I'd say darken up this top of his eye, but in a way, it looks even more heavy lidded. It looks like it's sort of like some people get a really heavy lid and then you lose the little fold there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which is cool. And I like this. I might have rounded. It's like we're getting into stylistic things here. So sometimes it's like, well, maybe you like that geometric edge, and if it works, who cares, right? Like I got to be careful that I'm not commenting on these from the perspective like the anatomy should do this, because it's like we're kind of jumping off the cliff here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this one got a lot more graphical than the first page.
Yeah, I love this guy. Keep going there.
And I like
add
the
a little
lady on
more
the
of the
right.
balance. Add a little more of that balance to this guy.
Mm-hmm. Start
giving me a version of this, but with a bunch of different people.
Okay.
Like I would at least go down this rabbit hole. That's a nice direction.
Yeah.
And then if you're telling me this is round, then this side's got to be round. And I would bring it more down like that.
Oh, yeah, that looks a lot better.
It usually drops down behind their ear a little bit. Yeah, that's great. That's a really nice one.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
You on your last legs?
Yeah. The weather changes like back and forth. It's been awful.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me screen cap the room one more time.
What sucks about online learning is I can't like skip class if I'm sick. There's not really an excuse because I'm not going to get anyone else sick.
True. Well, it's actually a good thing.
Somebody pointed that out to me about snow days earlier this year too. Oh,
You know what? The school up here, the high school up here, they did get a snow day.
What?
I know, it's ridiculous. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I mean, good for the kids.
No. It's not like I don't know how it works in high school because I can't, it seems like it'd be very hard to do and I don't know, I'm not a high school teacher, but it seems like it'd be very hard to do an online class with high school kids because they're just so hard to kind of corral anyway.
Well, that's what they've been doing for like 10 months now. It's had 6 periods of classes online.
Okay, where's
I'm right here.
George? You there?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you.
Okay, what do you think?
A bit better than last time, I can say that.
Okay. Yeah, there's some good stuff in here. Now here, okay, so this comes down into, we were talking about this. I don't know if it was I think it was in another class.
No,
Jessie was showing this guy that she likes, some Illustrator, and he has a line like this where it's very all kind of the same quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
but he's doing it as a stylistic thing. And it does feel a little bit stylistic here to me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm going to comment on it, just, you know, you might be able to push this stuff a little bit, you know, and sort of punch some things. Just get a little, like he's got a lot of information in here. And the reason I like that is I can use that as a sort of, as a dark value, and I can also use it as a shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then he's got this little business under here. Now I'm just making, this actually comes down a lot pointier, this nose. A little more like that. He's got a little divot right there that I might use. I wouldn't leave this all sloppy like that. And I'd shape it out. I wouldn't, like I'd come in here and shape it out. He's got a little bit of a eyelid up there. And then I might here, if I'm going to do this, I might push that core a little harder to turn his hair a little bit. And it'll also give me a little bit of volume or whatever you want to call it. Then this comes down a little, and that'll just break that shape up a little. You know, and then this is fine. I think there's some nice balance going on in that drawing. Now be careful here. These eyes sit in a socket. So make sure and believe in the socket idea. Got the nose pretty good. Again, I might, you know, come in here and break up the bottom a little bit to separate the two parts of his beard. I would probably simplify this turban. You know, I'd probably look at another one that's a simpler fold, unless it was like a cultural thing and, you know, I want to make sure I maintain that, but I'd probably simplify it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just somebody in a turban, I'm not going to get too specific about it. Same thing. So watch these eyes. This top lid can get a little darker. You can see just doing that helped it. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
And then a little more of this lid business. So now we're not using the eye socket value. We're just using the shapes around the eye. And this is getting a little too straight portrait, right?
Oh, okay.
Make sure I know these are the lips. This top lip would be a little darker than the bottom lip. You know, and then you got to get this very clear that that's a mustache around it and a beard and all that. Again, we're getting pretty close to just copying the photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So try and push yourself. I think you're pushing yourself more here and more here.
Okay.
Yeah. And this one's not too bad. Again, watch being so linear. Now, again, later on, if that becomes a stylistic thing, that's fine. But he's got such great graphic shapes in his hair. They're so easy to see. You know. That guy's hair pisses me off, by the way. And also with this, I would probably, you know, sort of, I mean, you can do a linear thing, but I think you want to separate it here and there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see. Okay,
I probably want to pull those ears out a little more. And again, and then watch the eyes. They're getting a little cross-eyed. Not bad on the nose, a little lower. But not bad. These are pretty good. Yeah? I know who that is.
Chef Ramsay.
That's good, man. Not bad. And then body-wise, again, I think I'd push myself a little harder.
Yeah, I think the only good one I did was one all the way on the right.
Oh, here?
Yeah. The other ones, they just seem to, I could have done a little better, but, you know.
I mean, this one's starting to get stylized. And I get it. This is what I'm talking about. You got to transition into this idea of stylization and cartoonishness and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is it cold down there?
Yes.
Yes.
It's pretty cold.
Yeah.
It's not real cold, but it's California cold.
It's real cold up here.
At night, I can see my breath.
Well,
Okay, where's Gilbert? It's Gilbert, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right here.
What do you think?
I had fun. I did
I
all the
love this.
faces just because I just feel like that's what I kind of struggle with. So I just worked on those and just try to push them.
That's fine.
I looked at like all the character examples you gave us from the links and stuff. So yeah, it was
Is this
fun. I had a lot of fun.
Is this Mark Twain?
Yeah, that's so like the first 2 pages are from Dabble's color.
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
site
can tell because I
does.
know this guy. I know this guy.
Yeah,
I don't know if I know this guy though. This is great.
yeah, that was fun. He was fun.
That's
to do.
great.
Yeah.
Am I looking at them sequentially, or is this chronologically how they went?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that was my favorite one from that one.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, there he is. This guy's great. Interesting guy. This is a really cool picture right here. I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, that wasn't from.
This is a really
First
interesting.
World. Yeah.
Oh, there he is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Probably
these
simplify
were-
this ear a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if I'm seeing it that big, I might show a little of it over there.
Just on the other side. Okay.
And sometimes people go, "Oh, you wouldn't say it." It's like it's cartoony stuff, dude. Come on, does it look cool?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and this is one place where it's sort of like, if it looks cool, it is cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never say that, but in this case, that is kind of true. If it looks cool, it is cool. Might put a little business around his eyes. You did a little. Might emphasize that a little bit. And then a lot of times what I do is I'll like fatten up a couple little spots on the glasses, but not too much.
Okay.
Like maybe
Hey,
there.
you gotta do like kind of like a better way to do like, because some like old dudes have crazy like wrinkles in their forehead. I really like those because those you can be very expressive. Is there like an easier way to translate that or like a
I think
design language?
I mean you are doing it. I think there's a bunch of ways.
Okay.
You could do it sort of the way you're doing it, where it's sort of a graphic idea and they're repeating. I think I tend to sort of do it and maybe they disappear a little bit because that's kind of what they do.
Yeah.
Like they're deeper in some spots and less in others, and you don't want to overdo it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think this is overdoing it. And then another thing here is I like this little thing with his hair, and it feels very comb-overy.
Yeah.
I might break it up a little more. Might put a little of that arch there, just because older folks, for whatever reason, they get that arch, or you see it more.
Yeah.
You know, and finish him off with a little collar or something. That's a really nice drawing.
Thank you.
It's a real nice interpretation. It's a really nice drawing. Same thing here. Be careful with the teeth. Right?
Okay.
And it's not that you can't show individual teeth. I might shape out the tops a little bit with the gum line. It kind of helps sometimes.
Okay, cool.
And then sometimes I'll lose some of the interior line and I mean there's a bunch of ways to do it. And then again, I'd probably put that little dark value back there to end the teeth.
Okay.
The trick with that is putting the little gum arches.
Yeah. Okay.
And then plus you can kind of erase some of the actual teeth lines here and there and maybe put one and then hit that jagged line where the teeth are separating. Some of that you can lose and some you can use, and but you can show teeth. You just got to be finessey about it.
Okay.
Because I think I showed you that Sebastian Kruger one of that actor, and he's like real teethy, and he's showing all his teeth, but he's really thinking about how those teeth work, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also going the other way. You might show somebody like this, and I just do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because that's so cartoony.
Yeah.
I'll give him a bow tie just because a guy who's got a bow tie should never be that angry.
Yeah, I feel like just the last couple of weeks of just doing these sketches and the exercise have been really helpful. Because I remember I had a character assignment at LCAT, and my teacher was such an asshole. He kind of did that thing where if you don't have it done by next week, it's you get an F. It was so weird to me that he just kind of rushed through it and expected everyone to.
Did he have a background?
A little bit. I mean, he was an old school illustrator, and he showed us a couple of examples. But I mean, that was it was a fundamentals of illustration class. It's a basic class to get you in that you take, and I don't know. It was just I think we only spent maybe one class session, maybe or two practicing, and then we just moved right into the final piece of it. I remember just having a hard time, and he was reaming me about it, and I was just I don't know what the fuck this.
Okay, that to me is a useless, and this is my opinion. Again, I've had teachers who were brutal guys, and they were great. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think, but I will say that those guys just had some weird. It was a couple of things. A, I respected the hell out of them, right? C or B, they were super accomplished people, and they'd done everything you ever wanted to do. And they were monster talented, and they were legends. I mean, both of those guys I can think of off the top of my head were legends. Okay. And it worked for them. It's Roland got you first term, and he's like, okay, dude, you're at Art Center, so I want to see if you should be at Art Center. And he just kicked your ass that whole term. Right. And the guy was brutal, and it was great. I was scared to death of him. It made me do better work. Cause I was I was shaking putting stuff up on that guy's crit rail. He was brutal.
Yeah.
And man, did it make you try to do good work, just because you didn't want to get torn up in the review in the crit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it worked. And then I had a teacher who tried to do that. He was a young guy. I think it was his first semester at Art Center, and he was a really accomplished guy, by the way. And he kind of adopted that persona. And I think a lot of people do that. They think that that's what Art Center is, and that's not all it is. Yeah. And he came in and did this trying to be he's trying to be Bern Hogarth, whoever. And it's dude, you're not Bern Hogarth. You know what I mean? It's just don't do that. Just find out who you are as a teacher, and then be that person, right? And also, if you show somebody a very complex process like what we're doing right now, and then I go, okay, we got 1 week and then we're out of here. It's what? I don't really know what you're going to learn from that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it was.
You're going to learn a little bit about methodology, maybe, but it's none of this stuff is easy. If it was something that was if it's a simple mechanical project, if you notice, I take a week on those and I'm out, because it's just here's the idea.
Yeah.
But we're moving towards a bigger idea, and this is the bigger idea. Is starting to put these shape ideas and the idea of caricature and cartooning these things up and doing all that kind of stuff is not easy. It's really not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine who told me this, and she's I think I might have told you guys, she's a really good figure person. And I've always been caricaturing people and all that kind of stuff, just goofing around. And she was and she's a really good academic figure drawing person. And she said something about that gave me a compliment or something about it. And I go, well, you can do that. You know how to draw. She goes, no, I can't do that. I go, you know how to draw? In my mind, I was just well, if you know how to draw, you know how to do that. She goes, no, I can't do that. And she got super pissed at me. I go, yeah, you can. She goes, no, I can't. She goes, I can't do that. Okay, do you get it? I can't. And now I realize she can't.
Yeah.
Because I saw her, it was just much too academic what she was doing. And she didn't loosen it up and get out in the real world and throw all that crap out the window now and just draw from life and real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is another winner right here.
Yeah, that was fun. That guy was fun.
And like, it's like these things I can go, well, I'd soften this up and I do that. But then I get into something where I start to go, well, it starts to feel nitpicky to me. But you know, I might add a couple, like I might add the little deet, deet, the little chain for his monocle.
Oh, okay.
Just like a little dots or something. And you know, maybe I'd even have it go down here and then come up into his pocket or something. But I mean, and even this, I mean, it's like, it's very, you know, linear, but I think it kind of works in this case. And the one thing I'd say is maybe make a little less timid statement here and there.
Okay.
Like that. And maybe this can fly over that. Again, I'm just making suggestions. I think the drawing's really good. And then, you know, I like to finish them with something, collar, something, right?
Yeah.
I like your ending better. I like this solid ending.
Thanks.
Okay, just don't like that. See, I like to add things onto it, but sometimes you go, no, it's about the simplicity, right?
Yeah.
But you know, you could punch your line a little bit, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I just give me that one, that other one we like. Give me 40 more of those.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Where's Jesse?
I'm here.
What do you think?
I was stoked. I liked my drawings this week.
This is great.
Thank you.
Who is that?
That's just out of my imagination, so an accumulation of many people I've probably seen.
I like this this transition of the hair from here to here.
Thank you. This one of my childhood friends, her mom had hair like that. I realized when I was posting it on Instagram today, I was like, that's Mrs. Kilroy. That's her hair.
I do stuff all the time like that. Like my mom will go, my mom's done this to me where I'll do something and my mom will go, I'll be doing an illustration, whatever it is. And she'll go, that's your dad. And I'll look at it and go, oh shit, it is. And I mean, it'll be spot on. It's like, it's my dad. It's like, how did I not know I was doing that? And then she said,
every time I post.
Go ahead.
Every time I post, or not every time, but a lot of the times when I post illustrations on my Instagram, one of my uncles replies and he'll be like, oh, that's your grandpa. He does the same thing. He's like, oh, that's Aunt blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, like exactly reaction. I'm like, oh shit, that is her.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I didn't even,
interesting.
When I'm warming up and I'm just usually, I like to do my warm up drawings just out of my memory. So whatever wants to just like flow onto the page.
Sure. I think that's a healthy thing to do, by the way. I think you have to do some of that. I think we talked about that in here a little bit, like especially with this cartoony stuff, but just in general, you got to have some time where you go, okay, I'm just doodling. I don't care what I'm doing. I don't care what I'm putting down. I don't care if it's any good. You've got to do that. You got to keep that going because I think you can get into a thing where you're, I don't know, where you're just too structured, I guess. You know what I mean? And I think you got to break out of that and just have time where you're like, I'm just screwing off. You know, I get some great stuff.
Yeah. And when I'm warming up, I think it's that if I'm warming up and I'm trying to make it look like somebody, I'm like, oh, I'm focusing too much on their likeness and not just warming up my hand.
But also, if I go, I'm going to try and get a likeness on somebody and I'm not warmed up, it's not going to happen. Not for me. That just doesn't happen. Like, it'll just be a mess. And what's really weird about it is like nothing connects. Like it looks like I've never drawn before. Like the eye doesn't sit in the face correctly and all that kind of stuff. It's really weird. Like I have to get locked in before that starts happening. And then my shapes start locking together. Because one thing, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when you're doing this kind of cartoony stuff, it's real easy for everything to start to disconnect and feel like it's just floating on a flat plane. Does that make sense? I mean, that happens to me all the time where I go, man, it's just, I know it's cartoony and it's not like trying to be an anatomical drawing, but I've got to have enough in there somehow to lock these shapes together so it feels like a head. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And if I'm not warmed up, that's the number one place where I fall apart when I'm like off, is things just don't lock in together. It's really weird. I knew exactly who this was immediately.
Oh, great.
And by the way, that's not an easy one because everybody doesn't know who that is. You know what I mean? I know who that is. I think she's got a little more going on with her nose, I think, but I already know who it is. Right?
Yeah, she was
By the
kind of
way,
tricky. She also has like she has really intense cheekbones.
Yeah.
But then every time I kind of tried to draw them, I was like, oh, like
See,
that's too much. Don't like the line.
trick. That's the trick. And then you go, okay, I'm going to do this cheekbone thing. And then you go, okay, well, now it's aging her up too much. And then what do you have? Because I was fiddling around yesterday, and I go, and all of a sudden I realized, it's kind of like that Mindy Kaling thing where she has that big cheek mass, and it was somebody else who had that. And then I keep going. I go, that's just not working. It's not working. Like I keep trying different ways of showing that. And then it turned into, it was sort of like there's a dimple over here and then a thing here, and then her mouth comes up and sort of tucks under her cheek, right? And those like four things or whatever lock together to create that shape. Does that make sense? Because the mouth tucking into the cheek right there really says a lot about that cheek mass. And then that little divot right there with a dimple happen, and then over here a little bit of indication of that arch. And it sort of like implies like this is coming here, and then it catches back up here. So all of a sudden those things lock together, but they're just a bunch of graphic shapes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I love, is when I land on something and I go, oh, that little weird mark says all that stuff. You know what I mean? Or it's like what we were just talking about with Brian's, where he had a couple, like Ian McKellen, where he just tilted his eyelids and bang, that got his eyes. You know what I mean? I would have went in there initially and tried to get all that age and stuff. It's like, doesn't need that. He captured that heavy lidded thing just by tilting it. You know what I mean? That's what's fascinating me about this stuff. Yeah, your drawing just keeps, I know who that is. That's a Target lady. Which I love, by the way. Oh, that's George Bush. Oh no, it's Biden. Wow, that looks like Bush.
But it does kind of look like Bush. After I finished it, I was like, wrong president.
I think it's just a couple little tweaks and it'll fall right back into Biden. That's a nice drawing. Who's this?
Sandra Oh, the actress.
So you started drawing, I mean, pursuing it, in a college setting at Fullerton, right?
Yeah, just in the fall of 2019. So last fall.
Wow. And then, because you just keep accelerating. You know what I mean?
Thank you. And I did this page actually last week after you were trying to draw Charlene Yee. Yeah. After we got out of class, I did this whole page of trying to figure out her as well, which was hard.
Yeah, her thing is, as I remember it, I just got a more or less straight drawing of her because I was looking at it from last week. I go, right now I just have a straight drawing of her because I hadn't figured it out yet. And what I do is kind of what I showed you on paper. I just sit here and I take a pencil and I just go. I don't really think about it. I just start making a bunch of drawings, and then I'll start to lock into it a little bit. You know what I mean? But it takes me it can take me anywhere from 5 to 25 drawings to start to, I'll go, oh, that works. And then I'll start putting those things together. Like, oh, this is a good thing for the eye shape. Her thing to me is she had a really, as I remember, she had a pretty wide, kind of squarish face. And then that hair that kind of, and it was sort of chopped and hanging over her face like that. And then and then of course she had those big glasses. The glasses are a nice big handle on her. And she looks like she probably always wears them. And I don't remember what her mouth was like. I do kind of remember it. It kind of did something. It was like a little bit crooked or something. I can't remember. Yeah, so you're leaning on that here.
Yeah, and then I noticed my warm-up on one of these pages is totally just me drawing her. I didn't even realize. I was just kind of drawing out of my head.
Who's that?
And I was like, oh, that one down there at the bottom on the right,
underneath
Angelica Houston. I was like, oh,
I like this hair. That's a great idea.
me simplifying her
Yeah,
again.
see,
but
this is what I'm looking for, that kind of hair shape and stuff like that. Where you're, coming up with a different solution for it. Like my brain, when I was just talking right now, was still in this place of a little bit of, to me, that still comes out of sort of realism. And then this is sort of jumping off the cliff and saying the same thing, but with a graphic shape. Okay. Which to me is more interesting. And I think this is your winner, probably, right?
Yeah, I
this
think
one,
so.
this one, this one, this one.
The one, cool. The one that is in the middle on that page, I feel like it kind of does look like the person who I was trying to draw. She's an actress, Fiona Shaw.
I was gonna say, were you watching Killing Eve or something?
Hells yes, I was.
Which one is that? Which drawing?
On that page, the one in the middle, the lady kind of
Here?
with the bags under her eyes, on the top row.
Oh, here.
Yes, right, dead center. Yeah.
That's a nice drawing too. This whole page is really good. I love the way you interpreted the hair on this one too. Didn't you go down the rabbit hole of hair for a while?
I think I'm still there.
I know, but it's paying off.
But thanks. I think what I've noticed with myself is that I can't overthink it though. Each time that you've pointed out that the hair looks good or that I felt really confident in it, it's always the ones where I just kind of like, I really scribbled, but I just like kept finding the scribble language, you know, like you say. And I just kept going. Or it was just like, maybe it wasn't that good at the get-go, like when I started this, but then I just did so many layers of it that I was like, oh, okay, now it looks like I meant to do it.
Yes, this feels totally intentional to me. All right. But it also doesn't feel stiff, and it feels like hair. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about. That feels like a controlled scribble language. Right. And then also what you're doing is you're massing it in here more and then less up here, which is what it's going to do. Because it's going to be a couple things. If that hair was doing that, it's almost like the guy who played Kramer, right? As it gets up towards the top, it's going to get, the light's going to come through it. It's going to look a little thinner, because it is, you know what I mean? It's less dense, right? Yeah, good. Really good.
Thank you.
I like this one too. I like the hair and stuff on this one. It's Anderson Cooper. I knew who that was.
Yeah.
You ever seen the cat that looks like Anderson Cooper?
No.
It's funny because he played it one time and he totally lost his mind. He was trying to be all serious and he totally lost his mind. Or he showed it one time. Because he actually seems like he's got a pretty good sense of humor. It's so weird if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. See it?
Oh.
Is this like the new Benedict Cumberbatch as an otter?
That's way too much. That's Anderson Cooper. That's two pictures of Anderson Cooper side
It's
by side.
totally, it's crazy, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, he played it on there. I said, he played it on there at one time and he totally lost his shit on camera.
I love that somebody saw that and was like, "Oh, that's Anderson Cooper."
That's, you know what? That's
it clicks so much in someone's head, and they were like, "There he is."
That's what I love about the internet. Is like the weird shit that people think of that you would never see. Just the weird stuff that people find. You know what I mean? You see it every single day. You know what I mean? Just some weird left field joke, and you're like, there's this one that they use all the time, just for different stuff. And I don't know where it came from, but it's like this really wonky looking dog and the eyes like off. Have you ever seen it?
Probably.
It's like him sitting at a table and he's just like real kind of stupid looking, but like in a really funny way, and it's super simple. And they always put it like in I don't know, like the White House is on fire behind him and he's just sitting there and he says, "This is all fine." And they always put it
fine. Oh, that Taylor, you talking about that little dog that's like sitting in the fire? The illustration.
Yeah, he's like sitting at a
Fine,
table
That
or sitting on a chair.
wait.
It's really like a really primitive drawing.
I'm
But
like, I think that's
Oh
what
yes,
I'm
yes,
talking
yes.
about.
his
Okay,
caption,
I know what you're talking about. I
and
thought
then
you were
one
talking about a
eye's
real
off.
dog.
Huh?
I thought you were talking about like a real dog
No, it's
that
just
was
this
sitting in a chair.
cartoon thing. I see it all the time, and for some
Oh,
reason, it's like one of those weird things that you could never capture if you tried. Like if
yeah.
you tried to make a drawing that funny, it probably wouldn't be that funny. To me, funny drawings, like you sort of land on them. Like
I actually saw that.
Yes.
huh?
I actually saw that picture where I worked at AMC. They had like in the back where they had the food. I saw like it posted on the wall in black and white. And I'm like, oh, so that's what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
They have
Mike,
this
I
just
am
fine
sending
dog.
you.
Where it's just
Here it
like
is,
the
right
whole
here.
place is burning, and he's like, "This is fine."
Yeah, here
Yeah.
it is.
It's so funny.
That one.
Classic.
Yeah.
I drew
Chef's
myself
kiss.
in this meme once.
I love that he's in a room
Really
on
funny.
fire and it just says, "This is fine." Where did that come from?
It's just a meme that somebody
Real
drew
life.
like 100 years ago.
It's
Real life.
so, yeah.
Oh, it's years ago? God, I think it's hilarious.
Oh yeah, it's super old.
And that's the caption he came up with. "This is fine." It's like perfect.
It's applicable to so many scenarios. It's unbelievable.
And
That's what they
especially
always
when-
pair it with everything, and you're like, yep, that's
Especially
it.
when the whole country's a shit show.
They just
That's
after
2020.
when the
Yeah, that's
election was announced, when the election results were announced, somebody made a GIF of the dog being carried out of the fire, like a fire building, by a firefighter, and it was hilarious.
Beautiful. There's an.
I didn't think
There's
I could
another
ever
one
find
too
that. I
now.
didn't know it was that big a meme.
Oh, it's huge.
Okay, where's Josh? What were you gonna say, Jesse?
Oh, I sent you a new version of that meme on
Oh, did you?
Instagram.
Oh, okay. I'll look. Where's Josh? We got to push him further, right?
Yeah. I was just trying to kind of go in for likeness a bit and then trying to push them, but
Sure.
I ran out of
That's
time.
fine. That's totally fine. I think you're starting to get something here.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that actually this one's already starting to get stylized. Like you don't have to push them like psycho cartoony. Where you push them is up to you. You can push them. Jesse's pushing them more, cartoony and out there. And then, there can be some that are a little more subtle. You could go the Sebastian Kruger route where he's really hanging on the anatomy, but crazy pushing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just having a tough time, like, really nailing down what makes them look like them.
You know
Does that make
what's
sense?
what's good to do is like look at some people, and I'd argue look at the people who do it in the most simplistic ways.
Mm-hmm.
And don't even, not even when you're drawing or anything, just like go down the rabbit hole. Like people are really great at this, and then kind of just, it's a weird thing because you'll start seeing things and going, oh yeah, of course. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, of course, once you see it, you know what I mean? Which is true of a lot of things, obviously. And then, I think you're starting to do it here. I think this is a really nice drawing right here. That's a good drawing, right?
Thank you.
And then the rest of them, I just say you're starting a little bit here. Is that the guy from the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yeah.
That's what he'd look like in an alternate life if he was an accountant. Right?
It's pretty accurate.
And like this kind of thing, you have a lot of angularity with this woman's face.
That guy at the right hand corner looks like Frank Guthrie, little bit like.
I'll tell Frank that. You could probably push this whole cheek mask thing here, right?
Yeah.
This nose tilts up a little bit. There's a very specific nose. But I'd probably, she's in her head kind of tilts back. I might really play around with that shape there and this shape here, and then she's got this cool thing. And by the way, sometimes if I'm doing this, I probably would keep her braid or whatever, but I might change it and make it into a bun if I feel like it, if I feel like it looks better as a shape, right? And their ears down here, I've got her too squashed. I feel like she's a lot more kind of drawn out and a little more kind of an elegant shape. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This one, who is this guy right here?
What's his name? Jermaine something from Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah, I always hear that name, but I don't know what it is.
Flight of the Conchords is a band, isn't it?
Yeah, they're like a comedy band.
Jermaine's such a good actor too.
Mm-hmm.
This one looks like, let's see if I can find some. It looks a little bit like this dude.
Zach Braff?
Yeah. Reminds me of him a little bit. It's so weird when people are doing this. I do it all the time. Sometimes I'll just do a doodle, but a lot of times I'll do I'm going for somebody else, and all of a sudden I go, holy shit, it's somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be a really good drawing if I was trying to draw Ted Nugent. You know what I mean? And I'll never be trying to draw Ted Nugent.
Yeah, I was drawing him, and I was like, this kind of looks like Fred Armisen.
Yeah, a little bit of that too. By the way, that sucks. I just watched that show, the Forever, and they canceled it.
Which one?
It's a show that totally, like, you go, okay, I want to know where this goes now.
The Amazon show?
Yeah. It's a cool show. It's a super weird show because the whole first part of it, you're like, what is this show?
Yeah, I tried to get into it, but I couldn't watch it.
Yeah, how far did you go?
I think I only made it to like episode 2 or 3.
Okay, that's why. Because it starts off and you go, is this going to be like some weird middle age? We're trying to get our marriage back on track. It isn't at all. It's not what it is at all. Because I thought that was weird because I go, these two people are hipper than to do that kind of a show.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that kind of show. But what's cool about it is they make you think they're doing that show in the first like 2 or 3 episodes.
Okay. Good. I need something to watch after The Nanny.
And then it's just a total weird mind warp kind of thing. It's a trip. It's cool writing. It's like, I don't know why it got canceled. Maybe, I guess it didn't have an audience.
Well, there's too much TV. Nothing has an audience.
It also might be exactly what you said, where people just go, I don't want to watch this show about middle-aged people trying to get their marriage exciting again. Because, like, I don't want to watch that show. But I go, and it's these two people. It's probably not going to be that. Okay, so you're getting a likeness here. I'd say that part of the problem with this guy's likeness is, look at his nose. He's got this big ball on his nose, and it comes way down and up like that. It's a big ball on his nose. So you'd probably have to get a handle on that first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that, man. That's a big ball on his nose. And then it's weird too. It feels like there's this another thing. Even though his nose isn't really tipped up, it has this feeling of being tipped up. Does that make sense?
I can see that, yeah.
So a lot of times I go for my instinct and I go, that feels tipped up, and I'm going to try it. You know what I mean? I always feel like all this stuff is just a bunch of happy accidents. It's falling down the stairs, land on your feet, and that's how it feels to me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
right.
It's based on what you know and all that stuff, but a lot of it to me just feels random. And a lot of times when I lock on, especially when I do something I think is really good, where I'm like, that's a cool solution, and the way it's turned, all the graphic shapes and all that. A lot of the time I have no idea where that came from. I'm just like, because that shape doesn't make any sense. Why does that shape describe that, even though it doesn't make any sense? But it does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just it's weird. It's what we were talking about earlier. That's that magic part, that X factor, to me.
Mm-hmm.
In these eyes, I think you get a lot more, bigger, a lot more information on them. She has quite a bit of eye makeup on. I would always get that dark shape in there. It's hard to read these things without the dark shape.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in her case, I mean, this is I don't know who that is. Oh, and here's another thing, you guys. Make sure that you're pulling, you know, when you start going down the rabbit hole and you go, I think I want to do this person for my project, make sure that you're pulling a ton of reference. Okay, because you've got to see those people from, it's like part of the reason I gave you guys that, or I posted that Funny Bones movie is because one thing he talks about is like he has pictures of Conan from the back view, he has side view, he has this view, he has him talking, he has him performing, he has him. You really need to do that. Okay, like I watch people. If I'm going to draw somebody, I like to watch them, and when, sometimes you'll see him turn like sideways or something, or see him from a different angle, and you're like, all of a sudden they're a different person. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you go, I never noticed that their cheeks were that heavy. It just never, you know, or that their mouth is actually, this bottom lip is sitting back a lot further because I had too many, you know, 3/4 views that I can't see that. And you have to start seeing that stuff and then interpreting all the stuff. So when you go down the rabbit hole starting to finalize this, or deciding who you're going to do or whatever, make sure that you're, that you've got a lot of reference, because I'm telling you, all of it will tell you different information, right? And then you sort of got to land on something where you go, okay, that's the graphic language of that face, but it's going to come, it's actually, to me, it's really hard to do this from like one photo. You know what I mean? Because I don't really understand the construction of their face all that much from one photo. I need a few, you know, I need a whole bunch, you know, and then I'm going to look at them. Whenever I've done this work-wise, you know, I have to do a likeness or something, I used to just go to like, back then it was a DVD, go to a DVD and like, boom, get that one, boom, get that one, boom, get that one, get these really good, clear shots of them, and maybe clear shots of them just talking. You know what I mean? Like, what do they look like when they're just talking? Not when they're mugging, not when they're making a silly face, not when it's extreme, just conversational, you know? Because I'm actually usually more interested in that. If I almost want to capture a zero pose first. Like I never go to and this is just me, it might be different for you guys. I never go to a photograph where they're like smiling or anything, because it's like, okay, I don't want to interpret that. I need to interpret just a zero pose, maybe, you know, just, you know, like some of these are, right? Where they're not doing anything extreme, they're not laughing, they're not yelling, you know, they're just whatever, talking or, you know, just posing or whatever, right? And then that to me I call zero pose. And then I go, if I can kind of get the zero pose down, then I can figure out the rest of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you go, man, I really want to get the smiling pose, because that person's cheeks just go, you know, and you get this great graphic mark, and they're known for their smile or something, you know what I mean? And you go, okay, that's the one I want to get. But I don't know, for me to get there, I kind of go down, I just got to go down this path. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's actually true of any kind of design problem. This is nothing but a design problem, that you need to go down the rabbit hole of doing a whole bunch of stuff to get it to work. You know what I mean? At least
right.
I've got to go down the path. I've got to dig a bunch of holes. I've got to try and find it. You know what I mean? For me, for anything, you know, and I don't think that's unique to me. I think that's most people. Because you never hear anybody, you know, they go, hey, just worked on this, that, and the other. They never go, yeah, it was a piece of cake. It was easy. Like nobody ever says that. They go, oh my God, I struggled through that thing. It was sleepless nights. I stayed up for 2 days. That's the story you always hear. Because nothing's easy. And then these are just a little bit straighter, right?
Yeah.
So they're not bad, but it's start pushing them, right? And I don't care, because again, I think this is a transitional thing. You've got to go, how do I go from like just drawing a face to now having the confidence and the sort of understanding to push it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tricky thing, man. Again, it's not easy. Is this your first page?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one isn't too bad. Is this her thing, this like sour look on her face all the time?
Pretty much.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't think there's any like real pictures of her like just.
I mean, Billy's got this whole like trying to.
I don't know anything about her.
She's got this whole thing about trying to outsmart the media of, you know, what women should be. So.
She's also only like 17, right? So I mean, like being moody,
yeah,
looking like that's like pretty on point. I looked like that when I was 17 too.
Yeah, I think most of us were.
Yeah, right. I think everybody kind of did.
If she's 17, that totally makes sense.
She might be 18 now, but she for sure.
Well, 18, 17, same thing.
She's on point. She's right on track.
I was a complete asshole when I was 17, which my mom pointed out to me often.
I think sometimes most of us are.
Yeah, I think most people are. I thought I knew everything, and I knew absolutely nothing. That's weird to me when I look back on it. I don't know why I thought I knew so much. I didn't know anything. I hadn't done anything. Okay, where are we at? Robert, right? Yeah, Robert.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
I think I might have. I think the last one was probably easier.
Well, that's usually the case. I like this guy quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like the way you're interpreting the mouth shape here.
Mm-hmm.
Might put a little more on here. Sometimes you guys notice all it takes is a little bit of line quality and it'll pop these things, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these things, that's all I've done on them is I've just done a little bit of line quality on them. I like this one. I like this one a lot. Maybe a little more, like you could probably get a little bit of that sleeve there. And I bet you, like maybe this could cross over that a little more. Not quite the way I did it, but like if you have something like this and then like this, one of these might have the opportunity to overlap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This one's a pretty good one. Who's this?
Maggie Smith.
Oh, okay. She usually has those really big. Her eyes are interesting, man. She's just got this huge upper and bottom lid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just saw. What movie is that from?
It was just a photo of her.
Because I just saw her in a movie, actually, or yeah, it was a movie, but I think it was a BBC thing where she was actually playing just like a kind of a normal person, which is weird. I'm just used to seeing her like in Hogwarts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was just
Or
kind of
like,
weird to see her like in a normal, role.
yeah, or in like some sort of time period thing where she's wearing like the Victorian sort of.
No,
like,
yeah, that's what it wasn't. It was all modern. Who's this guy?
That's Brad Williams. He's a comedian.
I like that. What do you think of that one?
I like that too.
Okay, good. Again, I think I'd darken that upper eye a little bit. And also, I might give these a little bit of value. But I mean, and I like the pose. It feels kind of natural. And I like the proportion thing you did.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Where's Taylor? Sevilla.
Here. Hi.
What do you think?
I think it went like okay. I was just doing stuff off of I was watching music videos and just kind of drawing off of them. But yeah.
They still make music videos?
They make music videos. The Suicidal Tendencies one was old, but all the other ones were new.
God, I haven't heard that name in a long time. You know, his brother was one of the Dogtown guys? Yeah, I think it's, what's the guy's name? There's a guy in that band named Muir, and his brother is Jim Muir, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the Dogtown guys. It's weird. Is Suicidal Tendencies still around?
They're old, but yeah.
Wow.
I think they still perform. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think I'd want to be playing that kind of music at that age.
No, right?
It's not, and I don't know, maybe other people are different, but I can't, I don't want to go see a loud rock band. You know what I mean? I'm an old fart. I don't want to see it anymore.
I like my ears too much to not hurt them with loud music.
Yeah, it just doesn't speak to me that much anymore.
Right.
Now it's all Lawrence Welk and. Okay, so what do you think?
I think I still want to play with like shape languages and stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
know to gesture just because I was trying to focus on like faces and likeness. The only one I really liked that I did was the Thundercat one on the page that you're on, the
Oh.
bottom. And I could still play
I
with
like this one.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's a more successful one. And I'm starting to like what's happening here. There's like a fun graphic language starting to happen there. But we got to pull in the, like this, her jawline comes in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then is this her hair here? So then this has got to
That
feel
is-
more like her hair. Because
Right.
I was reading it as like a beret or something.
Okay, got you.
And then this guy, if you're going to do hatch lines, which is fine, make sure they're nice and clean and evenly spaced. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
And then this, so this, oops. What the hell was that? Come on. I might have gave this, oops. Just a little bit of tone. You know, and there's a bunch of things you can do. You can come in here and give a little bit of a shine if you want.
Right.
You can come in here and give it that kind of thing. And then like, you know, I mean, you can, some of the stuff, again, it's tricky when you're talking about cartooning, but you know, like if I'm drawing glasses, I might kind of try and get the initial pass sort of swept liney so I get it a little cleaner, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a tricky thing. You want to make sure that your line always feels super intentional and super controlled. I mean, even if it's not looking, even if you want it to not look controlled, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, you know, John Conillo does a big wobbly weird line, but it's like that's his thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And he knows what he's doing.
I mean, yeah, he knows what he's doing. The guy's a monster draftsman, but that's just the way he draws.
Right.
Like he just kind of draws all like, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's cool looking. You know, when he
Yeah.
starts, you go, well, that's gonna be a mess. Then by the time he's halfway through it, you're like, shit, that's cool, man. You know?
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love stuff that's like
Me too.
somebody's own version of draftsmanship. Like, yeah, that person's a monster draftsperson,
Mm-hmm.
but they work like that, and it's
Yeah.
very unique and it's their own thing. Like Canillo's like that, and I mean, there's a lot of people like that, you know.
Yeah, and they understand how things work, so just kind of like
Yeah,
makes
and now it's like here's the thing that I always think is cool. It's the people who go, I'm going to learn this stuff like crazy, and then I'm going to come out the other side and go, okay, screw all that stuff. Now I'm doing this. Like
Yeah.
I know it all, and the reason I can do this now, but you sort of learn it all and then come out the other side. It's what Picasso did.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He was academically trained up to a point. His dad had been an academic professor. He'd probably been trained ever since he was a kid. He was doing these academic drawings when he was like 9 or whatever. And then he said, screw all that shit, man. I'm doing this. But I argue he wouldn't have been able to do that without that training.
Oh yeah. Definitely. That's like that makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think there's a lot of guys back then from that time period. Because, okay, so the time period a lot of these people operated in that were doing all this like, started abstract expressionism and the abstract, all the different abstraction movements and all that kind of stuff. You got to remember, if they went to college, they went through a probably really rigorous academic program. It's different than now, where a lot of the programs got taken over by conceptual art in the 60s and 70s, right? Then they go, painting's dead, man, screw that. And I've even heard of this, because a lot of people have the same story at that time. A lot of really good illustrators, they go, what school did you go to? I went to university or whatever. And they go, but it sucked, because it was during the conceptual art movement. I wanted to be a traditional painter or illustrator. And they were like, no, we don't do that. And like one guy found one teacher, and I think this is ridiculous, by the way. One guy found one teacher who was who was an old school dude who knew all that stuff. And he goes, okay, I'll teach it to you, right? Yeah. So the guy had him drawing from casts and doing all that stuff. And the chairman of the program or whatever just wandered into that classroom that day, and he was just sitting there working by himself. And he goes, what are you doing? he goes, I'm doing these plaster cast drawings, which is an old academic tradition thing to do.
Mhm.
And the guy broke all the casts. He goes, we don't do that here. It's like, okay, so you're not teaching anybody anything except
Dang.
conceptual thinking, which like,
You're only allowed to learn one thing. You can't like branch off.
my argument is that, you know, like it's I don't care what kind of art you want to make, but if you are academically trained or if you're very properly trained, you're going to be better at that. Because I love abstract work and I love expressionism and I love contemporary work and I love installation work. I like all kinds of work. Okay. I love contemporary work. Okay. It has nothing to do with representation, but it's like 90% of the time you can look at that stuff and go, that person knows how to paint. And then, or they don't know how to paint. The reason they're doing that is because they don't know how to paint. I see that all the time. Like you see people going, yeah, it's abstract, and say, you don't know how to paint, dude. Like I can see it. You don't know how to paint. You don't understand surface. You don't understand form. And they go, well, there's no form. It's not an illustration. It's like, yes, there is. You don't understand surface. You don't understand texture. You don't understand brushwork. You don't understand color, and you don't understand design. And if you don't understand design, brushwork, color, and texture, how in the hell are you going to be an abstract painter?
Right.
All you're going to be doing is throwing a bunch of crap together and hoping something works.
I think that's when like
you're trained, and I knew people like that. When I was in college, I knew people at Art Center who were
I think everybody does.
at traditional painting, and then they sort of jumped the cliff and started doing abstract work, and their work was really good. It was really cool work because it was super informed. They were really good painters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's starting to get something.
Yeah.
And then be careful here. You got to interpret things like the hair very definitively, I think.
Right.
And it can be, you know, super graphic and be whatever you want. But what I'm really looking for is that whatever style you land on, it looks intentional.
Okay.
That nothing's, you know, not that things aren't random in that, because it is, but that that as a viewer, I'm going to look at it and go, it's just like I was talking about the Steven Silver things. He did those drawings that were the simplest things in the world, but man, were they exactly right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I should find them. I bet I can find them. And give me a little more information. And it's a tricky thing. If you land on some really cool, super simple style, I'm into it. It's got to be intentional. It's got to feel very designed. And in this case, what we're going to work on is we're going to do celebrity portrait only because I know who they are. And it doesn't have to be some movie star. It could be a writer. It could be whatever. I don't care. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or it could be a pro skateboarder. Or it could be, I don't care. I just don't want to be somebody so obscure there's like 3 pictures of them.
Okay.
and by the way, you're going to need to, what I just said, you're going to need to gather a style board of a bunch of images of their sideways, 3/4 view, looking down, looking up, back view, how their head sits on their shoulder. I saw, okay, so you never see yourself, right? And we all have this certain image of ourselves in our head, which is, you guys are mostly young and everything, so it's probably actually accurate. But like I don't know where it was. Just recently, I saw a picture of me from the back, like at a counter or something, and I didn't even recognize me. I'm like, that's me? Like I could look like a big schlub. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, God. And then I was going, wow, even from the back, I look super uncool. You know what I mean?
Oh, my God.
Not many people can pull that off.
Not looking cool.
From the back. By the way, it's week 8, or it's month 8 of wearing nothing but sweats.
I know.
Like I've totally given up. It's like, what's the point? The whole world's closed. Who cares? I'm wearing as close as you can get to pajamas in public.
I still have a little more respect for myself than that.
Yeah, I don't. Ooh, I like this one. Who's this? Oh, this is Taylor.
I was like, yes, this is me.
I like this one. Oops. This one.
That's Fran Fine, the nanny.
I thought her name was Fran.
Well, it's Fran Drescher, but yes.
Fran Drescher.
That's her character.
Is she the one with the laugh like?
Yes. And she still does that, by the way, which is weird. Who's this?
Those are just from Earth's World. I warmed up watching the show.
This is a nice one right there.
That's Charles Shaughnessy from the show,
What show?
The Nanny.
Who watches The Nanny?
Me, I have it on DVD.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Really?
apparently Taylor does.
Wow. Who's this? I like that one.
That's from Earth's World.
That's a nice drawing. That's a nice drawing. That's a nice drawing. That's a nice drawing. This is a nice drawing.
Thank you.
This is a nice drawing. And then you see when you hit it, right? Compared to this, right?
Yeah. I mean, I see it more on the first page. This page is a little combination of like me starting and stopping. So
I think this is a solid drawing. And I think the ones I just pointed out here are pretty solid drawings. This one too.
oh, good. That's of me.
And then get these guys a little more structured up, yeah?
Structured up like detail wise?
No. It's never detailed to me. I think what'll help is if you really try to break these down into sort of really simple shapes. Is what we ideally want to do. And then I'm also looking for overlap. So sometimes I can get something like this to overlap. This will probably cut in a little bit.
Yeah, I think I finally, like, after we've been doing the faces for so long, I think I'm like finally getting the like gears on that. So like I feel like with the bodies, it'll just take me that like extra week probably.
And like this guy might go, you know, have this hand out, then I might throw the other one back here.
Mm-hmm.
And then this feels like it should be, and again, you know, I want some stylization, so I'm not really that worried about, I mean, I'm worried about it, but I might have pushed that a little more like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times I'll tilt that foot up a little further, especially when you're talking about cartoony stuff.
Yeah.
And then what I'm always trying to do is just figure out, when it comes to like this kind of thing or character stuff or whatever you want to call it, I'm always trying to figure out, like with, let's use this one. You know, if I was going to figure that out, then I go, well, maybe I'll give her a little more of a neck. And then there's this sort of this top part. And then how do I handle the arms? Is it sort of like that? I do that a lot, actually.
I don't know why, but I'm so enamored by the big people on Earth's World to like
Earth's World is a trip. And then this I might, you know, push a little more. But what I'm trying to do is just break this down into really simple shapes.
Yeah.
However I'm going to do it. Probably make that a little smaller. It's too big. You know, and then I've seen people do things where they just really graphic up the hands maybe and things like, you know, just all kinds of things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of, for me, it's a breakdown of like, how do I break this down in just a really simple components?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll work from there. You know, if I know how the components work, it's just, it makes it easier for me to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you're looking at like clothing and stuff like that, you know, somebody's wearing a jacket, it's pretty easy for me to go, well, it's just this geometric shape.
Yeah.
You know, and then I got to kind of go, what can I do with it? You know, can I just, how much minimal folds can I show? You know, what can I, you know, it becomes a design. It becomes like, if I break down the shapes into these sort of simple graphic shapes, then I can throw them in my Lego box and I can reassemble them. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
and I can exaggerate them. I go, I'm gonna put a bigger collar on it. I'm gonna make that tie longer, whatever, you know, or fatter, or shorter, skinnier, stubbier, taller. And then I start coming up with a design language and I go, oh, everything's a little bit round and everything's a little squattier and, you know, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it's, you know, the old thing, like all these old things that are just standard things where it's like, you know, then it becomes like this shape maybe becomes, you know, a square against a curve, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then I put her, and then I'm going to shorten these things so they feel like really short, like pre-pantsy kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Or just those weird, you know, and then maybe I pull the shirt over, let the belly hang out. I do that all the time. Put a little clip there. You know, and then what are the arms doing, you know? Okay, now I said maybe they're a little thicker. Holding something. And I'm just using the really simple component shapes. Maybe I'll change the neck to a V-neck. And then have her looking at her beer. Maybe she's got a tiara on for some reason. You know, and then I might go, okay, there's a basic idea.
Yeah.
But now I got to really make it work. But like, okay, there's my basic idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give her sandals. You know, and then I go, okay, the belly hanging out's too much. Maybe I'll just put her shirt back in and tuck it in. You know, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's coming from this shape language.
Yeah.
And it's just going, well, what if I try a straight against a curve?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I go, okay, well, that's a little too much. I don't like her belly hanging out. So, okay, so I'll still have her head sitting, her head looking down, let's say. And then, you know, I'll just try different. I do like the shorts. I kind of like that with the sandals. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so then I'll just come in and start doing small things like this. Then go, well, what's her hair like? Maybe it's up. And let's try a bunch of things, right? And then maybe I'll take this and go, I like that. You know, sometimes you'll hit something with a thumbnail. Then I'll take this thing and bring it in here. And then I'll go back up here and then go, okay, I love doing this on really loose forms like this. It just works really well for me.
I mean, this is how I've started to work on my digital process. But like, I'm trying to process it through on paper so that when I go to digital, I'm not just relying on that all the time.
Yeah, everybody just has different ways of doing it. Now for the belly, I'll just put that little stopping point right there. It's not so extreme.
Now she looks like some German grandma.
Okay. I don't care. Yeah, and I'm going to do this now. I'm going to simplify the arm a little bit. And then, you know, if this arm comes out, I'll do a little of that.
She's at Oktoberfest.
Yeah. Okay, so then she's got a Stein. You know, and you got to put something on it, whatever. You know, and then I put an Oktoberfest shirt on her or something.
Mm-hmm.
Small hands. Got earrings on, maybe. You know, and then I got one idea.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just a shape language thing. I like to go really super loose, and then if I land on something, then I'll blow it up and I'll start to work over it. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just works really good for me. I'm sure it works good for everybody. Okay, so does all that make sense?
Yeah. I did a page of Barbara Streisand, but I really didn't like how they turned out.
Barbara Streisand is interesting because she has such an interesting face. I don't think I've ever drawn her before, but she's probably trickier than she looks.
She is, but like, she seems so easy at the same time because
I
her
know.
face is very like her straight on face is gridded, is like very gridded out. Like it's very sectioned. Everything has its own space. But then from the side, her whole face goes like this. So
Totally.
it's really odd. She's
Yeah.
like an optical illusion.
Well, if you go, hang on.
Like this was the closest where did it go?
Yeah, you got to take it a lot further. This guy, hang on.
Yeah. I can't get it to show up.
Right?
Yeah, I looked at that today.
But again, this guy's he's a master at this stuff. Trust me, he sat down and had to figure it out.
Yeah.
This is somebody else. I don't know who this is. I don't like that one. See, this is the danger with Barbara Streisand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like they just went right for the nose and just made the nose big. And it's like, no, because Barbara Streisand, when she was younger, she has a prominent nose, but in her own way, she was kind of beautiful and everything. You know what I mean? And she was very unusual looking. So you can't just go, she's got a big nose. It's like, no, it works on her face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you do this, it just feels insulting to me. It doesn't really feel right.
Well, that's from when she's older. When her whole, her
That's
cheeks.
fine. I think you still got to find. I think it's really easy. And I'm not saying that sometimes it's not totally fun, because it is. But I think it's really easy to be mean-spirited in caricatures. And when I used to do them all the time at work and with friends, and they were usually not mean-spirited, but they were totally making fun of everybody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We all did that. They made horrible drawings of me, and I made horrible drawings. Todd do it all the time. And it's fun. That's fun. But if I'm out and about, I don't really want to insult people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any reason to do that. I mean, there's certain people I kind of do, but you don't want to. The one thing I always don't want to do is because a lot of people have some hang up about my ex-girlfriend, super pretty and all that stuff, and all she would do is just find something wrong with herself. You know what I mean? I don't get this. You're talented, you're smart, you're good looking, you're creative, you're all these things, and all you do is just zone in on some little bump on your nose that I never even saw before. You know what I mean?
That's a problem with all women.
But it was I don't want to emphasize things like that out in public where I feel like I'm being mean-spirited. That's kind of one of the reasons I back off of that kind of stuff sometimes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I don't want people reading it that way, because that's not what I'm trying to do. And then and then you're doing the same thing. It's much easier to me to do this stuff from life.
Mm-hmm.
From life, you're trying to figure it out, and so you might have 3 on there that are just kind of a mess, and you're really pushing and pulling things and trying to figure it out, and then they think that's your drawing to them. It's no, that's my process of trying to find your likeness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes when you're really warmed up, especially from life, you can just throw it down. Photography for me is I'm spoiled by working from life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Life's where it's all happening, man. All right. So everybody's understanding this, correct?
So what do you want us to do next week?
I want you to figure out who it is you're going to do.
Okay.
And then I want studies of that.
Okay.
Are we gonna do an essay?
Essay?
I thought we said study of that. I said, are we gonna do an essay or something?
No. Why would I do an essay? It's in an English class.
We study the facial features.
Yes. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to pick who you're going to caricature. And then I want studies of that. And then I also want okay, and this part it can just be roughed out. What is it going to be? Is it going to be I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody.
Do you want us to do a mood board of the photos like you were saying earlier too?
You have to.
Okay.
This is the part now where you go down the rabbit hole of okay, now I'm going to start zoning in on one person.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the following week, I'm probably going to finish it up. But what I would do is, I'm trying to decide if I think that we should do it. I don't know if we should just do it as a face, or we should do it as a whole thing.
It's
What
like
do
a
you guys think?
scene.
Huh?
Well, I think it depends on the person you pick.
I think since some of us are first timers, we do facial first and then body later.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So let's just do face studies, but I want it to be basically one person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we, Mike, can we pick like in our drawings that we did?
Do what?
Can we pick the faces that we did and I like right now, like I picked like the one you went over it on my drawing. Can
I
we
don't
pick
care.
one?
I don't care who you draw. I don't care. I just don't. I want it to be somebody who's known, and I don't want it to be like your mom or something, because I don't know what I don't know what they look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sí, señor.
I want it to be somebody who I know who they. That's the only reason really I'm doing a celebrity thing. But again, my version of celebrity isn't like can be a movie star, can be a comedian, can be a writer, can be a politician, can be a famous activist, can be. I don't care. It just has to be somebody that's known. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you want us to do like a page of studies and then one final rendered one, or
I want to see them before you do a finish.
okay, so just a collection
I
of
want to
studies and
see
then
them. I
reference.
want to see them, and then I'm going to want to do color.
There was another person I was planning on doing, but I never did. You ever heard of a comedian called Gabriel Iglesias?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll do them.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to give you like an amount of pages. Here's the problem. There's a point in any class that I feel like you should start managing your own process. Does that make sense? But then what irritates me is then I go, okay, so just do studies. And that to me means you do the studies until you figure it out. Okay. So that could be 100 pages. I don't know what it is. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3. But what I get is I get 2 drawings. Like 1 page, 2 drawings on. I go, I don't know how you, I mean, I couldn't do that. I'd have to sit down and figure it out and do a bunch of drawings. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to go in and push yourself and you got to find it. And at this point, it's like, you know what to do. We've done thumbnails, we've done all this stuff. And then the other thing I want you to tell me is how am I going to do this? On Tuesday, I want to know how you're going to do it, right? Are you going to do it digital? Are you going to do it? And I don't care how you do it. That's up to you completely. Or are you going to do it part digital and part traditional? Or are you going to do it all digital? I don't care. It's totally up to you. Or are you going to do a real inky thing? Or are you going to do a very shapy thing? Like, how are you going to do it? Does that make sense? And I'll go over some color stuff on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. And also what I would do, you guys, is however you're going to execute this, I want it to be on Tuesday. I want you to come in and go, I think I'm going to do this, especially if you have some, and give me a heads up too, maybe. If you go, hey, I think I want to do it like this. You know, if it's just digital or something, that's fine. But, or, you know, you could send me something, go, I want to do something like this or whatever, because I always want you guys to try and push yourself and try some new things. But I'm totally fine with it if you want to do it, you know, digital or whatever. I'm fine with however you want to do it. I would try and push myself a little bit and go, hey, I want to try this or that or whatever. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like that guy we just looked at and he's doing a combination of ink and color, you know. It could be a million things. It could be like Pablo Lobato. He does all his stuff in Illustrator, right? And that's kind of why I was going over that today, because I want you to see like that's not an undoable thing. Does that make sense? If you haven't really worked with it before. And if you really need help with it, just let me know and we'll sit there and go over it. The only thing that sucks is that when we're on campus, this is so simple. You know what I mean? It's like, just come to my office, I'll show you, you know, and then you go, or you can sit in the lab and you sit next to me and I go, okay, do this, do that. And you go, oh, all right, I get it. Just inking this or just doing some simple color in Illustrator or whatever, it's not that hard. Okay. But, you know, that's up to you. And one thing is fun is to try and go, I like to, to me, it's fun to go in Illustrator and just ink the living hell out of something. You know what I mean? There's just something fun about that to me, but that's totally up to you. Does that make sense? And you guys got all my brushes, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go through those. And by the way, some of those are Illustrator and some of them are like, some of them are halftone screens. So like you could also go, okay, I'm going to do this. Because that's, you guys know what halftone screens are, right?
Yes.
The ones I gave you are these.
So you just want only one face and one page, right?
I just said what I want.
All right.
Hang on, let me see if I can find them. I think I gave you these. So these right here are halftones. So look. See them?
Yeah.
So if you want to get that retro halftone thing, so you could go into Photoshop. I mean, do it whatever you want to do in Photoshop, and then just jump over to Illustrator, create the halftone screens, pull it all back into Photoshop, and just drop them in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a nice little trick to have. They actually don't have good pictures of it. And here they are right here. Here's the little screens. And they're super easy to use. I gave you guys those. I gave you guys this, I think. I might not have given this. If I haven't, I'll put it in. I gave you guys this one that gets an engraved look, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is also really handy to have like that. I love that kind of stuff. And I gave you the, I think I gave you those a while ago. I gave you the, that whole set of inking brushes for Photoshop. Yeah. And that one is, come on. Ooh, that's cool right there. I might buy that one. That's cool. Hang on. I'll show you this real quick. I don't know why I can't find them.
Rusty Nib is its own thing.
It's what?
It's a Rusty Nib's a different brand.
Oh, True Grit. Okay, so it's this one. This is a real good set for this project if you want to go down this route. So it's sort of like this stuff. And you can get a real nice sort of inky style with it. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And this person put some cool color in it. I love the way they did that. So you want to get that kind of inky look. There it is, right? So everybody knows what they're doing, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're focusing on one person and figuring it out. And then also I want you to figure out from a design perspective what you're going to do. So all these people, I think I put a bunch of them up. Go look at them, just kind of go, okay, I'm going to lay it out like this, and this is what it's going to be, correct?
Yeah.
I want it to be a finished, thing. I'm going out hiking in the woods right now. Look.
Ow?
Yeah, look.
You live in the woods, Mike?
I got my snow.
By your bear
He just
friend.
said that. Oh,
I was gonna
nice.
say he's gonna get eaten by his bear. Yeah.
Nice snowshoes.
The bears love me, man.
They see you as their own.
Yeah, that's what they tell you.
They give you cuddly hugs.
They
It's
do.
because he smells like them.
And then
I think it's a brother.
I go out
Brother
and I
bear.
wrestle them.
You
Wrestle the
smell
bear.
like fish.
No, bears smell
Smell
like
like
urine, actually.
Oh, yeah.
They smell a lot like Taylor Cole White.
Rude. Just because I've ridden the LA subway.
That was brutal.
They do,
Rude.
though. They do, though, because my ex-girlfriend, she goes, hey, my ex-girlfriend one time went outside and she goes, there's a bear around. That was Torpedo. That was my bear.
You all right?
And she goes, I go, how do you know? And she goes, because it smells like urine. I go, you don't know that. And then And then one time, I might have told you guys this. And one time I left chicharrones in my car, and man, those things stink, right? And I heard Torpedo outside, and no, I didn't hear him. I went outside to get something out of the car, and I forgot I left him in there, and I could smell him. It smelled like piss. And I'm like, and I'm looking around. I go, it was nighttime. And I go, and I look around, and sure enough, I could see his eyes in the bushes. He was like hiding in the bushes because he was going to trash my car to get those chicharrones out of there. Like if I hadn't gotten those things out of there, he would have trashed my car. Because I mean, they're super good, but they smell really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't have any sense of like, they don't know it's a car. They don't care, And I ran him off, but he kept coming back until I figured out like, oh, those things are in the car. Which I'm surprised he still didn't do it, because you go into your car the next day, if you put chicharrones in your car, it smells like farts in your car the next day. Like seriously, it does. Haven't you ever got those, the really good ones?
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're so good. Okay, we know what we're doing, and everybody's doing a great job, you guys. Thank you. Okay.
Am I doing a good job, Mike? I'm doing that job.
Bye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
Are you uploading this one to YouTube?
Yes.
Cool. All right.
See you later, Mike. See you next
Thank
Tuesday.
you guys.
Bye,
Bye.
Mike.
Thanks, you guys.
Hey, Mike.